It was midnight, the night deep. At this hour, the streets were nearly deserted, looking rather desolate and forlorn. The birthday party was over, and everyone had left. Ethan and Jessica, too, had arrived at the car, ready to drive back to the manor. Ethan opened the car door, just about to get in, when Jessica grabbed his arm and pulled him to a corner of the street. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, a little confused and curious. In the dim light, Jessica looked up at him, her eyes glistening and bright, her expression eager. "Ethan, I want more." Ethan blinked, not understanding for a moment. "Want more of what?" "This." Jessica stepped forward, rising onto her tiptoes as she wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck. Then, she kissed him, taking the initiative. Ethan was stunned for a second, then realized what Jessica wanted. He chuckled softly and immediately responded, leaning in. Soon, they were locked in another kiss. Jessica had been wanting to kiss Ethan for a while. When Ethan kissed her during her confession at the birthday party, it had been her first kiss. It was also her first time experiencing the feeling of kissing. This made this valley girl, approaching 30 and still single, experience the magical taste of love for the first time. And now, she wanted more. But there were too many people at the party, and Jessica, who had just confessed, was a bit shy. Naturally, she was embarrassed to do it there. So, after everyone had left, she couldn't help herself. She pulled Ethan into this deserted corner, intending to fully experience the feeling of kissing this time. Anyway, Ethan was hers now. She could kiss him whenever she wanted, and didn't need to worry so much anymore. Of course, since she had only started kissing today, she basically didn't know any techniques. She just clumsily cooperated with Ethan. Soon, her body gradually went limp, like a puddle of water melting into Ethan's arms, and her eyes gradually became glazed over. After a long time, Ethan released Jessica. Jessica was already limp in his arms, without an ounce of strength. Her fair and beautiful face showed a look of intoxication and satisfaction. "Want more?" Ethan looked at the girl in his arms, amused. Jessica looked up at him, her eyes watery, her lips already a little swollen. Hearing Ethan's words, her eyes lit up again. "Yes, please." Ethan was immediately exasperated. This girl was addicted, wasn't she? "It's too late. We'll kiss more when we get back." "Okay," Jessica replied softly, a little disappointed, but knowing it was late and they should go back. "Let's go." "Ethan, I don't have any strength in my legs." Jessica leaned against him, speaking softly. Her tone carried a hint of coquetry, making Ethan's bones tingle. "I don't know what to do with you." Ethan gave a gentle smile, lightly pinching her delicate nose, then scooped her up in his arms and walked out of the corner. Reaching the car door, he opened it and gently placed her in the passenger seat. Then, he thoughtfully fastened her seatbelt. And Jessica, from beginning to end, kept her eyes fixed on Ethan, unable to tear them away. A faint smile always played on her lips, her expression very content. Just like that, Ethan drove back to the manor. It was late, and the entire manor blended into the night, very quiet. After getting out of the car, Jessica immediately clung to him, wrapping her arms around one of his arms, her head resting on his shoulder. Her whole body was leaning against him. He felt like she was a little clingy. Ethan glanced at Jessica beside him, smiling helplessly, but secretly enjoying the feeling. Soon, they entered the manor and went straight back to the room on the second floor. Once in the room, Jessica remained glued to Ethan, not wanting to separate at all. Ethan sat on the bed, looking at the girl leaning in his arms, and said with a bit of a headache, "It's too late. I need to take a shower." It was almost 12:30, and if he didn't shower and sleep, he wouldn't be able to get up for his morning run tomorrow. "Let me hug you a little longer," Jessica said, holding his arm, as if she couldn't hug him enough. She really couldn't hug him enough. She had loved Ethan for 17 years. In those 17 years, she had dreamed every day of being with Ethan. Now that day had finally come. She just wanted to vent all the longing and affection of those 17 years on Ethan. Now, she couldn't wait to be with Ethan every moment. It was best if no one bothered them. Ethan sighed softly, rubbing her fluffy head, his expression helpless, but more indulgent. In the quiet room, Jessica just kept hugging Ethan like an orange cat, quietly staying in his arms. Soon, half an hour passed. "Okay, you can get up now. It's getting late. I need to take a shower," Ethan said helplessly. "Okay." Jessica reluctantly released him, sitting up from his arms, but her watery eyes were still fixed on him, as if afraid he would run away. "Be good and wait for me here. I'm going to take a shower first." Ethan reached out and pinched her cheek, leaving those words before getting up and going to the bathroom. Jessica sat on the bed, watching Ethan's back as he entered the bathroom. and even after the bathroom door closed, she still couldn't bear to take her eyes away. "Ethan, we're finally together," Jessica murmured softly, a satisfied smile on her face, a feeling of happiness in her heart. At the same time, in the bathroom, Ethan stood under the shower, letting the water flow over his body. Even at this moment, he still had a feeling of unreality. He was actually with Jessica. That was Jessica, stunningly beautiful, with a fantastic figure, and, most importantly, worth billions. Such a socialite was now his wife, and he was just a divorced, penniless, unskilled older youth. According to Sarah, someone like him would have difficulty finding a date, even through blind dates. But now, he and Jessica had come together. It was truly unbelievable. What he couldn't believe the most was that Jessica not only liked him, but she had actually liked him for 17 years. That was 17 years. She had started liking him from the age of 10. He had never thought that a boy as ordinary as him would have a girl secretly admire him. And for 17 years. Right now, Ethan felt like the luckiest man in the world. "Oh, right, I haven't given Jessica the gift yet," Ethan suddenly remembered. The necklace he'd carefully picked out was still in his car. He'd previously resigned himself to the situation and wasn't going to give it to her. But now, it seemed the necklace he'd put so much thought into wouldn't go to waste after all. There was a reason to give it to her now. She'll like it, right? Thinking about the surprised look on Jessica's face when she saw the gift, Ethan couldn't help a soft smile spreading across his face. A strange sense of anticipation bloomed in his heart. A while later, he finished his shower and changed into his pajamas. He stood before the mirror, picked up the hairdryer, and began drying his hair. Soon it was dry. Looking at his reflection, he couldn't help but smile. He wasn't alone anymore. This feeling of being in love again. It felt so good. Knock, knock. Just then, there was a knock on the bathroom door. "Ethan, why aren't you out yet?" Jessica asked, sounding a little anxious. "What's wrong?" Ethan turned his head and asked the door. "I missed you." Jessica's voice came through, soft and tender, almost sending tingles down his spine. With a helpless smile, Ethan put down the hairdryer and opened the door. Jessica was standing there prettily. Seeing him emerge, her eyes instantly lit up, and a smile immediately bloomed on her face. She rushed forward and threw her arms around him. "All right, you go take your shower now," Ethan said softly, gently stroking her head. "No," Jessica nuzzled her head against his chest greedily. "Let me hug you a little longer, just a little longer." Her tone was a mix of petulance and pleading. Feeling helpless again, Ethan let her hold him. "Just a little while, okay? Then you be good and go shower, got it?" "Okay, I got it." Jessica smiled sweetly, her eyes full of delight. And so, the two stood there quietly in the bathroom doorway, holding each other. After a long moment, Jessica reluctantly released Ethan and then dashed into the bathroom to take her shower. Half an hour later, Jessica emerged from her shower. She had changed into a white silk nightgown that perfectly showcased her lovely figure. She smelled fragrant all over, and her skin looked dewy and tender, almost glistening. Meanwhile, Ethan was sitting on the bed, idly scrolling through his phone. Jessica immediately climbed onto the bed and snuggled into his arms like a kitten. She looked up at him from his embrace, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Ethan, kiss me." Ethan sighed helplessly, put down his phone, and lightly tapped her fair forehead. "You're really getting addicted, huh?" "Ouch!" Jessica cried out in mock pain, rubbing her forehead with a wronged expression. "But you said we'd kiss when I got back." Ethan thought back, and indeed, he had said something like that. He'd only mentioned it casually, not expecting her to have held on to it. "I really don't know what to do with you." He cupped her delicate face and leaned down to give her lips a quick peck. Jessica had been full of anticipation, so Ethan's single peck surprised her slightly. When she processed it, she was immediately displeased. "I want more." Saying this, Jessica looped her long, slender arms around Ethan's neck and kissed him properly. Ethan chuckled helplessly and returned her kiss. More than 10 minutes later, Jessica lay limp on the bed, utterly spent. But her eyes shone with satisfaction, still savoring their passionate kiss. Ethan lay beside her, catching his breath for a moment before remembering his morning run tomorrow. He immediately sat up and got out of bed. "All right, I'll make a bed on the floor. It's getting late," he said, walking towards the closet to get some bedding. Although they were together now, it was still very new. Ethan was considerate enough not to push for anything more intimate yet. After all, this was Jessica's first real relationship, and he worried she wouldn't be comfortable if things moved too quickly. Hearing this, however, Jessica grew anxious. She immediately sat up in bed, her face falling slightly. "Ethan, why are you making a bed on the floor?" "My valley girl, it's late." We should sleep, Ethan said, looking at her with fond exasperation. You can sleep in the bed with me. Why sleep on the floor? Jessica asked, puffing out her cheeks petulantly. Air. Ethan looked at her still flushed face and couldn't help asking, Aren't you afraid I might try something? To his surprise, Jessica immediately got out of bed, went to the safe in the corner, knelt, and opened it. From inside, she retrieved 2 little red booklets. She walked back to him, holding up the 2 marriage certificates and tilting her smooth chin proudly, a smug look on her face. We're a legally married couple now. Legal, understand? We're licensed. Certified for, well, you know. Ethan looked at the 2 marriage certificates in her hand, then at her proud and expectant expression. He paused for a moment before saying, But we don't have any condoms. It wouldn't be ideal if you got pregnant, since we've only just gotten together. Hearing this, Jessica wrinkled her delicate nose and couldn't resist brandishing the marriage certificates again. I told you, we're legally married. Legal. Since we're husband and wife, why would we need those? Ethan, her voice softened slightly. Don't you want to have children with me? As she spoke, Jessica pouted, looking deeply hurt, her eyes brimming with a vulnerability that tugged at the heartstrings. Seeing her looking so heart-wrenchingly vulnerable, Ethan felt his heart melt. He hurriedly explained, No, that's not it. It's just, we only just got together. I was afraid you weren't ready yet. But Jessica took a step closer, her clear, bright eyes locking onto his, her gaze stubborn and firm. Ethan, I've loved you for 17 years. I've waited 17 years for this day. For this. I've been ready for a long, long time. Ethan froze, staring into her determined eyes. A wave of emotion washed over him. 17 years. This girl before him had loved him, waited for him, for 17 long years. She was so persistent, so incredibly determined. She had been ready for this day all along. Only one thought filled Ethan's mind. In this lifetime, no matter what, he would never let down this girl who had so steadfastly loved him for 17 years. He had to make her happy. At that thought, all of Ethan's reservations vanished completely. He stepped forward, cupped Jessica's beautiful face, and met her tender lips in a deep, heartfelt kiss. The next morning, at 7 a.m. sharp, 2 alarms blared simultaneously in the room, their jarring rings shattering the early morning quiet. On the soft, large bed, Ethan woke instantly. He reached over, grabbing both his and Jessica's iPhones, and silenced the alarms. At his touch, the room fell quiet once more. With that done, Ethan looked down at Jessica and nestled in his arms. Unfortunately, despite how quickly he'd shut off the noise, she had already been woken up. Go back to sleep. It's still early, Ethan murmured, gently stroking her head. His eyes were soft, his expression full of affection. But I want to go for a morning run with you, Jessica murmured back, tilting her fair, lovely face up towards him. Her eyes were moist and shimmering as she gazed at him. Are you sure you can run right now? Ethan asked, amused. Last night, Jessica had given him her first time. Her very first time. Though Ethan had been as gentle as possible, it was still her first. Running probably wasn't feasible for her just yet. You're terrible, she mumbled, reminded. A blush instantly spread across Jessica's cheeks. After the bloom of lovemaking, her skin seemed even fairer, possessing a delicate quality, as if flawless porcelain. The blush now made her look even more vibrant and captivating. Suddenly, Jessica seemed to possess a womanly allure she hadn't had before. Ethan couldn't resist leaning down and pressing a soft kiss to her cheek. Jessica smiled shyly, looking at him with bright, watery eyes. Pouting slightly, she said reluctantly, But if you go running, what if I miss you? Ethan chuckled helplessly. Jessica was being incredibly clingy now. He quite enjoyed it, though. I won't go running today, either. We can sleep in together. After over a month of self-discipline, Ethan decided to slack off today and savor the sweet comfort of Jessica's embrace. Really, Jessica's eyes lit up, the corners of her mouth curving upwards uncontrollably. Of course, really, Ethan nodded. Okay then. Jessica finally relaxed, looking utterly content. All right, sleep now. MHM. They held each other close, closed their eyes, and tried to drift back off. However, a moment later, Jessica's eyes fluttered open. She looked up at Ethan, only to find him awake too, watching her. What's wrong? Ethan asked. I can't sleep anymore, Jessica said. Me neither. Ethan, I want kisses, Jessica said, gazing at him earnestly, a restless look on her face. I really don't know what to do with you. Ethan sighed, amused. Then, meeting Jessica's expectant gaze, he lowered his head and captured her soft, pink lips with his own. They held each other, kissing deeply once more. A few minutes later, Jessica was slightly breathless, her body completely limp and devoid of strength. She lay draped over Ethan's chest, her eyes glistening and bright, seemingly still savoring their recent passionate kiss. After quite a while, Jessica regained some strength. She snuggled deeper into Ethan's arms, rubbing her head greedily against his chest. Ethan, this feels like a dream right now. It doesn't feel real. I'm really with you, Jessica whispered, her voice tinged with emotion. She had loved Ethan for so many years, dreaming countless times of moments just like this. But today she was truly, tangibly with him. She was terrified it was all a dream, that she'd wake up and find it wasn't real. Thinking about her 17 years of feelings for him, Ethan felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He held Jessica gently, murmuring softly, "Actually, I never imagined you liked me, let alone for so many years." Deep down, Ethan had always felt he wasn't good enough for Jessica. He could never have guessed she harbored a secret crush on him, that she'd even gone to the same elementary, middle, high school, and even university just to be near him. And finally, for his sake, she'd even declared herself uninterested in marriage. He used to believe her claim, never imagining it was simply because she only loved him. This girl had done so much for him, sacrificed so much. In that moment, Ethan felt a pang of guilt and heartache for the girl in his arms. "Ethan, I'm never letting you leave me again in this lifetime. We have to be together forever." Jessica pressed her head tightly against Ethan's chest, holding him even closer. She had loved him for 17 years. Now that things were finally settled between them, she swore she would never be separated from Ethan again. She would cherish him more than anyone else. She would never let him leave her. Feeling Jessica's dependence and the deep love radiating from her, a gentle smile touched Ethan's lips. A quiet sense of happiness bloomed in his heart. "Okay," he agreed softly. "We'll be together forever. We'll never be apart." After lingering in bed for a while, they finally got up. Ethan pulled on a pair of shorts, about to head to the bathroom for a shower, when he saw Jessica, who had just put on her pajamas, tugging at the bedsheet. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling across the bed. A spot of red on the sheet was particularly noticeable in the light. Because of that small stain, Jessica had been quite sore last night. It was her first time, after all. Ethan, about to go wash up, paused, slightly confused by Jessica's actions with the sheet. "What are you doing?" he asked, puzzled. Jessica lifted her pretty face, a smile she couldn't hide gracing her lips. "Ethan, I want to save this sheet. It's our first time." To Jessica, this bedsheet now held extraordinary significance. It marked her first time. It was proof that she and Ethan were truly together. Of course, she wanted to keep it. Ethan started to say it wasn't his first time, but seeing Jessica so absorbed in her happiness, he couldn't bring himself to spoil her mood. He decided not to say anything more. And so, Jessica pulled the sheet off the bed, folded it neatly, and placed it carefully in the wardrobe to keep. Having done this, she looked completely satisfied. "All right, I'm going to wash up," Ethan said with a helpless shake of his head before heading into the bathroom. Okay. Soon, 30 minutes had passed. Washed and dressed, they left the room together and went downstairs for breakfast. 9 a.m. in the manor. A long dining table was laden with a lavish breakfast. "Here, husband, try this." Jessica picked up a shrimp with her chopsticks and brought it to Ethan's lips. Ethan simply opened his mouth and accepted it naturally. Such intimate gestures might have felt awkward or unnatural between them before, but now they flowed with effortless ease. Watching Ethan accept her offerings so readily, Jessica couldn't help but smile, her gaze towards him filled with doting affection. Before, Ethan wasn't truly hers. They were just a couple in pretense. Back then, showing him kindness required elaborate explanations, fearing he might misunderstand. But now, there was no need for such worries, because they were truly together now. From now on, nothing could tear them apart. Now, she could shower him with affection, dote on him openly. At this thought, a wave of delight washed over Jessica, bringing with it a deep sense of happiness. Ethan turned his head and saw Jessica gazing at him, lost in thought, a smile playing on her lips. He felt a touch helpless and gently reminded her, "You should eat, or it'll get cold." Jessica snapped back to reality, a slightly embarrassed smile on her face. She then started eating her breakfast, though she couldn't resist glancing at Ethan repeatedly as she ate, almost as if afraid he might suddenly disappear. Just then, Jessica seemed to remember something and turned to a housekeeper standing by the table. "Ms. Dawson, could you please change the bedsheets in my room later?" "Of course, miss." The housekeeper nodded slightly, a respectful smile on her face. Although she agreed readily, she felt puzzled inwardly. Mrs. Sheets were usually changed every 2 weeks. She had just changed them yesterday, so why again today? But she was just a housekeeper. Miss had given an order, and she could only obey without asking questions. "Oh, right, husband." Jessica suddenly turned while eating, her shimmering eyes fixed on Ethan, sparkling with anticipation. "Could you come somewhere with me later?" "Where to?" Ethan asked, curious. "To see my grandfather," Jessica said softly, a hint of sadness in her eyes. Ethan paused for a moment, then nodded. Okay. He knew Jessica's grandfather had passed away 2 weeks prior. During their pretend marriage, Jessica had often gone alone to pay respects to her grandfather, but she had never taken Ethan with her. He hadn't expected her to suggest taking him to see her grandfather today. This would be Ethan's first time paying respects to the old man. Soon after breakfast, the two boarded a Maybach and left the manor. This time, neither of them drove. They sat together in the back seat. A security personnel member was driving, sitting upright in the driver's seat, eyes fixed forward, driving attentively, very professional. In the back seat, Jessica leaned against Ethan, her head resting on his shoulder, her expression tinged with sadness. Half an hour later, the car followed a narrow mountain path up to a hilltop. At the summit stood a single grave. Hand in hand, they knelt before the grave, burning paper money. Jessica looked up at the black and white photograph on the headstone. Her expression moved. "Grandpa, I'm married now. You can rest assured, I won't be alone anymore. I married the man I always wanted to marry. I'll be happy for the rest of my life. You can be at peace now." Jessica spoke softly as she burned the paper money, her voice choked with emotion. Before, whenever she came to visit her grandfather, it was simply because she missed him. She never mentioned her marriage, because she knew back then that her marriage to Ethan was just pretend. She didn't want to lie to her grandfather. It wasn't until now that she and Ethan were truly together, that she dared to tell her grandfather. Her grandfather's biggest worry when he was alive was for her, his granddaughter, fearing she would end up alone. Even in his final moments on his deathbed, he urged her to get married. He was genuinely afraid that after he was gone, his granddaughter would have no one to look after her and would spend her life alone. Jessica, of course, understood her grandfather's heartfelt concerns, knowing he could never rest easy about her marriage prospects. Thankfully, she could now tell him she was married. She was happy. Her grandfather could finally rest assured. Ethan knelt beside her, looking at the photo on the headstone, a kind-faced old man. The name engraved on the headstone was Su Guofeng. This was Jessica's grandfather. Seeing the sadness on Jessica's face beside him, Ethan continued burning paper money and spoke to the man in the photo. "Grandpa, I'm her husband. Don't worry, leave Jessica to me from now on. I will treat her well and never let her suffer any grievance." Ethan's voice was soft, but his tone was firm. Hearing his words, Jessica turned to look at him, her eyes instantly misting over, on the verge of tears. Gazing at Ethan's resolute expression, Jessica felt deeply moved. Since her grandfather passed away, she had felt utterly alone in the world. She had no other family left. But now, Ethan's words made her realize she wasn't alone anymore. She had lost her grandfather, but she had gained him. The thought brought Jessica a measure of comfort. Seeing Jessica looking so moved and close to tears, Ethan couldn't help but reach out and put his arm around her shoulder. Jessica naturally leaned into his embrace. And so they remained, nestled together before the headstone. "Grandpa, rest assured, Jessica has me to take care of her now," Ethan said solemnly to the photo, holding Jessica close. "Grandpa, you can rest easy. I have him now," Jessica murmured, leaning against Ethan, looking at the photo as tears finally streamed down her face. In that moment, she missed her grandfather terribly. But he was gone. She would never see him again. Not far away, Robert Lewis watched the couple kneeling before the grave. His aged face showed a flicker of emotion. His cloudy eyes glistened with unshed tears. He had heard back at the manor that Miss and Sir had come to pay respects to the grandfather. Realizing it had been some time since he himself had visited his departed old friend, he had decided to come along. He hadn't expected to witness such a scene upon arriving. "Ah, Guofeng," Robert Lewis murmured softly, gazing at the scene before the grave. "You can finally rest in peace down there." Thinking of his departed friend, the tears in Robert Lewis's eyes finally spilled over, slowly tracing paths down his weathered cheeks. It was noon, and the sun was shining brightly. After paying their respects to her grandfather, Ethan and Jessica returned to the manor. However, Jessica still seemed a little sad and downcast, clearly still missing her deceased grandfather. Ethan noticed that the valley girl seemed even more clingy than usual. On the way back, she had kept her arm linked with his, her head resting on his shoulder. It was as if she could only find solace when she was near him. Ethan didn't say much. He understood that since her grandfather's passing, Jessica saw him as her only family left in the world. From now on, she only had him. Right now, Jessica was simply transferring her dependence and longing for her grandfather onto him. Naturally, she was clinging to him. Seeing the valley girl looking so gloomy, Ethan took advantage of her trip to the bathroom to retrieve the birthday gift he had prepared for her yesterday from the car, the $100,000 plus necklace. He planned to surprise her with it when she came downstairs. Ethan sat on the sofa, hiding the gift box behind his back, quietly waiting for Jessica to come down. Soon enough, Jessica appeared. Her expression was still a little downcast. She came straight to Ethan, sat close beside him, then looped her arm through his, resting her head on his shoulder, half leaning against him. "What's wrong? Still thinking about your grandfather?" Ethan asked, feeling a pang of sympathy for the girl beside him, and gently stroked her head. Jessica murmured softly. "Grandpa always wanted to see me get married before he died, but now that I'm married, he can't see it." Jessica felt a wave of guilt thinking about her grandfather, her voice filled with deep regret. Ethan sighed, gently stroking her hair, and comforted her softly. "It's okay. Grandpa's gone, but you still have me. I believe Grandpa is watching from heaven, and seeing you so happy now, he can rest assured." Jessica nodded, but couldn't bring herself to be happy. Her mood was still a little low. "All right, cheer up. Look at this. What is it?" Ethan smiled and pulled the gift box from behind his back. Jessica perked up at the sight of the box, and couldn't help but ask curiously, "What is it?" Seeing the expectation in Jessica's eyes, Ethan didn't keep her in suspense, and immediately opened the gift box. Instantly, a beautiful necklace was revealed before Jessica's eyes. "This is the birthday gift I prepared for you. I didn't give it to you yesterday, so I can only give it to you now. Did you buy this for me?" Jessica's eyes were fixed on the necklace in the box, unable to look away, her bright eyes filled with surprise. Ethan had personally chosen this necklace. The pendant was a heart-shaped blue gemstone, which looked romantic and also represented his affection for Jessica. "Yeah, I chose it for you. Do you like it?" Ethan felt a little happy seeing Jessica's delighted expression. He had originally thought that he and Jessica would never be together. There was no need to send this necklace. But now, seeing Jessica so happy, he felt that all the effort he had put into preparing the birthday gift was completely worth it. I love it." Jessica nodded emphatically, a hint of joyful smile appearing on her lips. The low mood she had felt before was instantly swept away. "I'm glad you like it." Ethan handed the gift box to Jessica, who happily accepted it. Looking at the necklace in her hand, her eyes were shining brightly like glittering stars. "Ethan, put it on for me." Jessica looked at the necklace for a while and couldn't wait to wear it. However, she wanted Ethan to put on this meaningful necklace for her himself. "Okay." Ethan smiled gently, reached out and picked up the necklace, then wrapped his hands around Jessica's neck and fastened the necklace. "Does it look good?" Jessica touched the heart-shaped pendant on her neck, looking at Ethan with anticipation. "Of course it looks good," Ethan said. Receiving a satisfactory answer, Jessica was immediately content, unable to stop the smile on her lips. "Ethan, this is the best birthday gift I've ever received." "Thank you." Jessica touched the heart-shaped pendant on her neck, feeling very fond of it, her watery eyes looking at Ethan, her eyes filled with deep emotion. Although she had bought several necklaces before, and each one was valuable, even one necklace worth $7.25 million. But in her eyes, those necklaces were far inferior to the one Ethan gave her. Because this was given by Ethan, only this one, the best birthday gift. Ethan murmured softly, his expression a little sentimental. Yesterday, he still felt that this necklace worth $100,000 plus was a bit too much. After all, for Jessica, a necklace of this value was insignificant. But now, Jessica cherishes this necklace so much, and claimed to be the best birthday gift. This made Ethan feel a little warm in his heart, filled with a faint sense of happiness. It turns out that the birthday gift is not important. The important thing is the person who gives the gift. "Thank you, husband." Jessica couldn't help but leaned over, hugged Ethan's neck, and kissed him on the cheek. Her rosy lips kissed his face, bringing a soft and smooth touch. Feeling the touch on his face, the corners of Ethan's mouth couldn't help but rise into a smile, and his mood suddenly became cheerful. "By the way, let's go on a date tonight." Ethan looked at the gleeful Jessica and suddenly suggested. He suddenly remembered that although he and Jessica were already together and now were legally married, but the two of them had never been on a date from beginning to end. A date. Hearing this suggestion, Jessica's eyes lit up, her face eager to try. This was her first date with Ethan, although the two had already married. But in the end, the two have only been together for a day. Now, the state of the two people saying that they are husband and wife is actually more like a couple in love. And the marriage of the two was because of a transaction, too hastily. This makes people always feel that there seems to be a lack of something between the two. If you have to say what is missing, it is a sense of ritual. This date is just right to fill this missing sense of ritual. The two quickly reached an agreement and decided to go out on a date that night. Because this was their first date, Jessica valued it very much. For this reason, she went upstairs to dress up specially. 6 in the evening at the manor. Ethan sat on the swing, idly playing on his iPhone while waiting for Jessica to come downstairs. Finally, half an hour later, a sweet, gentle girl's voice suddenly sounded behind him. Ethan. Ethan turned his head to see Jessica standing behind him, seemingly appearing out of nowhere in the soft evening breeze. She was wearing a long white dress, simply standing there under the setting sun. An evening breeze swept past, making her skirt flutter, lending her an ethereal, pure beauty. Like a fairy stepping out of a painting, so stunning she seemed almost untouchable, inviolable, especially with the exquisite makeup she wore. Her features were already lovely, but the makeup accentuated her beauty even more, making her features look sharper and more defined. Just one look was enough to take one's breath away. She stood there gracefully under the setting sun, beautiful enough to steal your breath. Ethan watched her, momentarily lost in a daze. He couldn't remember how many times Jessica had stunned him like this. Looking at her now, looking just like a fairy, he felt like he'd hit the jackpot. He felt like the luckiest man in the world. Such a beautiful girl was actually his wife now. It felt incredible just thinking about it. Do I look nice? A gentle smile blossomed on Jessica's stunningly beautiful face. Her large, bright eyes gazed at him, full of expectation. Beautiful. Ethan nodded, speaking his mind honestly. Good. Receiving Ethan's affirmation, Jessica was instantly satisfied. She walked over to Ethan with light steps. Then, she reached out with her slender, fair hands and naturally wrapped them around one of Ethan's arms. Instantly, Ethan's arm found itself trapped in a delightful, inescapable pincer maneuver. There was simply no escape, pressed comfortably on both sides. Feeling the soft touch against his arm, Ethan couldn't help but feel a little flustered. It couldn't be helped. Jessica's figure was just too amazing. Even though they had been intimate last night, sharing everything, this kind of close contact still made Ethan's breath catch, his mind screaming that he couldn't handle it. He took a few deep breaths to calm the restless feelings stirring within him. Like that, the two of them walked to the car together. After getting in, Ethan started the car and drove out of the manor. Soon, they arrived at the AMC theater. This was their first time watching a movie together, so Ethan had specifically bought couple seats. The tickets were for a popular romance movie that had recently come out. Inside the theater, almost everyone watching the movie was a couple. Only a few fallback options were there, just for the movie itself. Soon, the movie started. At first, the atmosphere was normal, with everyone focused on the film. But as time went on, many couples started making out. Right in front of Ethan and Jessica, a young couple was already locked in a passionate kiss. Ethan felt a little embarrassed watching them. He was actually quite reserved. Even when he was dating Sarah, they had never kissed in such a public place. However, Jessica's reaction to the kissing couple was completely different. Seeing several couples making out, her eyes instantly lit up, clearly tempted. Back when she was single, she'd always envied the couples she saw kissing in movie theaters. She used to wish she could go to the movies with Ethan as a couple. Then she could also show off their affection in public like this. Now, her wish had come true. She was really here watching a movie with Ethan, and, as his wife, no less. This made Jessica feel eager and restless. Ethan, Jessica called softly. Ethan turned to look, seeing her bright, sparkling eyes shining in the darkness. What's wrong? Before Ethan could finish, Jessica leaned in, expertly wrapping her arms around his neck, her soft, pink lips unreasonably sealing his. Ethan's eyes widened instantly. Firstly, he was surprised, caught off guard by Jessica initiating the kiss. Secondly, he felt a bit embarrassed. Showing affection so openly in front of so many people made him feel shy. But soon, as Jessica's tongue slipped into his mouth, he completely lost himself, sinking into the passionate kiss. His mind went blank to everything else, focused only on enjoying the kiss Jessica was giving him. In the corner, the few fallback options who had come just for the movie watched the men and women below shamelessly making out and started feeling restless. They felt like the entire theater reeked of sickeningly sweet romance. It was like a critical hit, dealing 10,000 points of damage to their single hearts. I knew we shouldn't have come to see this movie. I told you, it's not for fallback options. Agreed. Maybe we should just leave? I can't watch this anymore. Leave? Why? We already paid. I'm finishing the movie. Watching this makes me want to kiss someone too. Damn it. Why don't I have a girlfriend? Bro, you want to kiss? I can help you out. Get lost. The fallback options whispered amongst themselves, finally deciding it was better not to look. They focused their eyes back on the screen, ignoring the couples engaged in PDA. Meanwhile, Ethan and Jessica were blissfully unaware of the psychological damage their actions were inflicting on others. They were completely lost in their wonderful kiss. After a long while, the two finally separated. Jessica was slightly breathless now. Her body felt limp in Ethan's arms, completely drained of strength. Yet, her face wore a look of blissful intoxication, her eyes filled with satisfaction. As for Ethan, only after the kiss ended did it fully register that he had actually just made out with Jessica in the movie theater. It made him feel a little embarrassed again. Of course, at the same time, it also felt quite thrilling. Soon, the movie ended. Those fallback options in the corner got up and left the theater immediately, not wanting to stay a second longer. The other couples also gradually got up and left. Ethan felt thirsty. He picked up the milkshake Jessica had been drinking, took a sip, and then turned to her. Everyone's leaving. Let's go to MHM. Jessica nodded softly, took Ethan's hand, and stood up to leave. But after just a few steps, she looked back reluctantly at their seats, her eyes sparkling with delight. The movie was great, she thought. Let's come again. The movie finished around 8:30 p.m. Ethan and Jessica walked out of the AMC theater together. Neither had eaten dinner yet, and they were starting to get hungry, so they decided to find a barbecue restaurant. Soon, they arrived at a Michelin star restaurant. It was packed with customers. They found a table in a corner, sat down, and started looking at the menu. I heard this place is pretty popular, but I didn't expect it to be this busy, Jessica remarked, watching the bustling crowd, her bright eyes filled with anticipation. With so many people, the food had to be good, right? I also heard influencers often come here to post about it. Wonder if that's true. Ethan asked curiously. It was his first time eating at a Michelin star restaurant. He looked around, but the ambience didn't seem much different from a regular place, just maybe a bit livelier. They do, but it's not like influencers are here every day. It's mostly out-of-town tourists checking it out. Not as many locals come, Jessica explained. Ah, I see. Ethan nodded thoughtfully. Before long, the waiter brought their food. Ethan eagerly took a bite, but felt somewhat disappointed. The food was definitely good, better than average, but it didn't quite live up to the social media hype. Better than a typical restaurant, but not by a huge margin. Here, try this fish, it's really good, Jessica said. She had sampled a bit of every dish and decided the grilled salmon steak in the center of the table was the best. She picked up a piece with her chopsticks and offered it to Ethan. Oh yeah, Ethan hadn't tried the salmon yet. He opened his mouth and let Jessica feed him. Have to admit, it was actually really good, pretty unique. Here, try these shrimp too. They're great, Jessica added. She picked up a shrimp, peeling shrimp, and personally fed it to Ethan. Ethan didn't hesitate, readily accepting her offering and eating it with relish. Just as they were enjoying their dinner, two heavily made-up, beautiful women walked into the restaurant entrance. Sarah, this Michelin star place has been trending lately. I wanted to bring you here a few days ago, but you kept saying you weren't in the mood, Olivia said to Sarah beside her, pulling a suitcase as she entered. Olivia, I'm so frustrated right now, Sarah complained, pouting with a wronged expression. Ethan actually dared to hit me last time. He'd never hit me before. Sarah, try not to dwell on it so much. When you two get back together, you can deal with him then. You don't understand, Olivia. What makes me angriest isn't that Ethan hit me. It's that he's moved on to Jessica. How could he? We're just on a trial separation, and he actually wants to make it real? He wants to betray me. It's infuriating. The more Sarah thought about it, the angrier she became. In her mind, she and Ethan were bound to reconcile eventually. But now, Ethan had actually had a change of heart, didn't love her anymore, and had fallen for Jessica. This was unbearable. To her, it was a blatant betrayal. Olivia gave a helpless smile and patted Sarah's shoulder, trying to console her. Okay, Sarah. So what if Ethan likes Jessica? Who is Jessica? She's a bona fide, super rich beauty. Why would someone like Jessica possibly fall for him? Even you look down on Ethan. Why would Jessica possibly be interested? You should just put your mind at. Before Olivia could finish, her BFF Sarah suddenly stopped dead in her tracks, freezing on the spot. Her eyes stared blankly ahead, as if she'd seen something unbelievable. Confused, Olivia followed her gaze. There, at a table in the corner of the restaurant, a man and a woman were eating together, acting very intimately, looking like a couple deeply in love. The girl was feeding her boyfriend, and the boyfriend kissed the girl's cheek in return. They recognized the intimate couple. It was none other than Ethan and Jessica. Seeing the affectionate scene unfold, Olivia was stunned too. What the? Ethan and Jessica are together. How is this possible? Olivia felt like her brain was short-circuiting. She couldn't process it. Just moments ago, she was saying Jessica wouldn't possibly be interested in Ethan, and now she was eating her words, having witnessed their intimacy firsthand. In that moment of shock, Sarah snapped out of her stupor. An uncontrollable rage surged from deep within her, rising rapidly, impossible to suppress. Her expression twisted, her eyes fixed intently on Ethan and Jessica, looking like they could shoot fire. "Ethan!" Sarah roared, unable to stand it anymore. She strode furiously towards Ethan and Jessica in the corner. Ethan had personally admitted to her face that he liked Jessica, which was already intolerable. In Sarah's view, his change of heart was a betrayal in spirit. But back then, he hadn't actually done anything physically wrong to her. But today, she saw it with her own eyes. Ethan had kissed Jessica in public, and Jessica had looked all shy and coy. Obviously, they were already together. Now, the anger in Sarah's heart exploded completely. Ethan hadn't just betrayed her emotionally. He had now betrayed her physically. This was cheating, blatant cheating, and she caught them red-handed. Sarah's fiery temper flared up instantly. There was only one thought in her mind: teach this cheating couple a lesson. Startled by Sarah's shout, Ethan and Jessica froze. They turned their heads and were surprised to see Sarah. "Sarah?" Ethan couldn't help but frown, his good mood instantly souring. What was wrong with him lately? Why'd he keep running into this crazy woman? Seeing his furious ex-wife bearing down on them, Ethan felt a wave of annoyance. "Ethan, you jerk!" Beside herself with rage, Sarah quickly walked up to Ethan and slapped him straight across the face. Ethan didn't even have time to react before he got slapped. Seeing Ethan get hit, Jessica was taken aback for a moment. Then anger flared up inside her. She shot to her feet, took a step forward, and without hesitation, slapped Sarah right back across the face. Smack! A loud slap echoed through the restaurant. Sarah held her cheek, looking utterly incredulous, apparently stunned that Jessica would actually have the nerve to hit her. After all, Jessica was the one who seduced her husband. She should be the one feeling guilty. How dare she hit her? "Jessica, what gives you the right to hit me?" Sarah glared at Jessica, teeth gritted. In her eyes, Jessica was nothing but a shameless homewrecker. The nerve of this woman, stealing her husband and then daring to lay a hand on her. Sarah hadn't even touched Jessica yet, but Jessica had struck first. Fury surged through Sarah, making her want to tear Jessica limb from limb. Jessica, however, had already stepped in front of Ethan, shielding him. Facing the furious Sarah, Jessica showed no fear. Instead, she puffed out her chest and yelled, "Sarah, what gives you the right to hit my husband?" Jessica met Sarah's enraged gaze without flinching, her expression radiating self-righteous anger. Her Ethan, the one she couldn't even bear to scold, let alone hit. And this woman, Sarah, had slapped him the moment she arrived. Jessica's heart ached fiercely for him. Hearing Jessica's defiant question and seeing her brazen stance, Sarah's eyes widened, her whole body trembling with rage. Ethan was her husband. How dare Jessica claim him as her own? Did she have no shame? Sarah drew herself up, her voice filled with righteous indignation. "Jessica, Ethan is my husband. How could you betray me like this? How could you do this to me?" Sarah roared like an enraged lioness, looking ready to pounce and devour the cheating couple whole. "Sarah, Ethan is my husband now. My husband." Jessica retorted, not backing down an inch, her confidence unwavering. She and Ethan were in love now, and they even had a marriage certificate. Their union was protected by law. Sarah was just the ex-wife. What right did an ex-wife have to act so arrogantly? "Sarah, we had an agreement," Jessica added sharply. "I only lent you my husband to marry. How can you just keep him? Give him back to me now." Seeing Jessica's utterly self-assured expression infuriated Sarah further. She lunged forward, trying to grab Ethan's hand, determined to snatch him back. "Sarah, Ethan is my husband now. My—" Jessica glared, defensively keeping Ethan behind her, refusing to let Sarah near him. "Jessica, step aside." Let me talk to her, Ethan said, patting Jessica's shoulder gently. He then moved forward, pulling Jessica behind him. He worried Sarah, in her crazed state, might hurt Jessica, so he shielded her. Okay. Jessica obediently stepped behind him, then shot Sarah a provocative little lift of her chin. The sight made Sarah practically grind her teeth to dust. She turned her venomous glare onto Ethan as he stepped forward. Ethan, how could you two do this to me? How could you be with Jessica? No, I won't allow it. You have to remarry me. Leave her right now, do you hear me? Sarah couldn't accept the reality of Ethan being with her own best friend. These two had been the closest people to her, and now they had betrayed her together. How could she possibly bear it? Looking at Ethan, memories flooded Sarah's mind. Times when he had doted on her, seemingly at his beck and call. So, just like in the old days, she adopted a commanding tone and a superior air, ordering Ethan to leave Jessica and come back to her. Sarah, we're already divorced, Ethan stated coldly, his gaze filled with undisguised contempt and disgust. I'm with Jessica now. I'm her husband. You're just my ex-wife. Please stop harassing our lives. No, you're mine. I just linked you to her for the wedding. None of this is real. I regret it now, Ethan. Come back to me, please. You can't be her husband. You're my husband. Sarah desperately shook her head, refusing to believe it. She surged forward again, grabbing Ethan's arm, her expression pleading pitifully. Sarah, there's no going back for us. Just give it up. Ethan yanked his arm free. His heartless words struck Sarah like a physical blow. All the strength seemed to drain from her body, leaving a desolate look in her eyes. No, you're my husband. My husband. My husband. Sarah choked out, tears suddenly streaming down her face as she started to sob uncontrollably. Sarah, Olivia, who had recovered from her shock, rushed over and helped Sarah up from where she had stumbled. She then glared fiercely at the cheating couple. Ethan, how can you be so cruel? Sarah is carrying your child, and you're with Jessica? How could you do this to her? To your own child? Olivia demanded, adopting a posture of righteous condemnation. None of your damn business, you gold digger. Ethan snapped, frowning as Olivia inserted herself yet again. This is between me and Sarah. What right do you have to interfere? You. Olivia was momentarily speechless. He was right. Strictly speaking, it wasn't her place to meddle. But as Sarah's best friend, she couldn't just stand by. Ethan, Sarah has been waiting to get back together with you. How could you do this? Don't you know this is cheating? Olivia declared loudly. Oomph. Cheating. Ethan sneered. Right in front of them, he pulled Jessica in his arms. Jessica and I have a marriage certificate. We are legally married. And you call this cheating? As he spoke, Ethan lowered his head and captured Jessica's soft lips in a deep kiss. Jessica eagerly rose onto her toes, returning the kiss while simultaneously sending a defiant, triumphant glance towards Sarah and Olivia. A smug little smile played on her lips. Seeing this, the two women stared, wide-eyed. They seemed stunned that this cheating couple would be so brazen, so openly flaunting their affection right in front of them. It was a provocation, a blatant, naked provocation. Sarah, especially, felt like her lungs would explode with rage. One was her husband, the other her best friend, and now they were kissing right in front of her. She felt utterly humiliated, utterly betrayed. You too. Sarah and Olivia pointed, trembling with fury, their eyes practically bulging, but they were helpless. As if that wasn't enough, Jessica wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck. Husband, I want more. Ethan immediately obliged, lowering his head again to kiss Jessica's tender lips. I'll kill you both. Sarah finally snapped, completely losing control like a drama queen. She went berserk, lunging forward wildly, ready to tear the couple apart. However, before she could reach them, two waiters rushed over and restrained her. Sir, miss, please take your issues outside, one of the waiters warned sternly. If you continue like this, we will have to call the police. Right now, everyone else in the restaurant was looking Ethan's way. Some, clearly enjoying the drama, even pulled out their iPhones to film Instagram reels. Ethan glanced at the onlookers, his brow furrowing slightly in annoyance. Let's go. Don't waste time on these two lunatics. He immediately grabbed Jessica's hand and walked straight out of the restaurant. Ethan, who are you calling a lunatic? Who are you calling crazy? Being called crazy set Olivia off. She instantly pointed at Ethan's retreating back, shrieking hysterically. That jerk, Ethan, dared to call her crazy. Even her own husband didn't dare call her that, but Ethan did. She instantly flew into a rage. Let me go. Let go of me. I'm going to tear that cheating couple apart. Meanwhile, Sarah was still being held back by two waiters watching Ethan and Jessica about to leave. She panicked. She couldn't just let that cheating couple get away. However, her struggles were useless. The two waiters held her firmly, preventing her from causing more trouble. Soon, Ethan and Jessica were gone. The restaurant gradually quieted down. Many diners still occasionally glanced towards Sarah and Olivia, standing in the corner, their gazes like they were watching two clowns. "Sarah, let's go too. There's so many people here, they're all staring at us." Olivia had calmed down by now. Feeling the eyes on her, she felt incredibly uncomfortable, utterly mortified. It's all Ethan and that bitch Jessica's fault, making us look like such fools. Sarah was still fuming. Right now, she felt completely betrayed. And this betrayal, this public humiliation, was delivered personally by her former best friend, her BFF. How could she not be furious? "Olivia, let's just go. We could talk about it back home." Hearing the whispers around them, Olivia felt eyes burning into her back. She tugged at Sarah's sleeve, desperate to escape the restaurant. Sarah glanced around, feeling the awkwardness too, and nodded. "Let's go." Then, the two grabbed their purses and headed straight for the exit. However, just as they reached the door, they were stopped by two waiters. "Excuse me, ladies, you haven't paid your bill yet." One waiter stepped forward and reminded them. "Paid? Paid for what?" Sarah and Olivia's eyes widened, stunned. What bill was there to pay? "The gentleman and the miss who were just here didn't pay their bill. Could you please settle it?" the waiter explained. "What?" Sarah and Olivia were dumbfounded. Their briefly calmed anger instantly flared up again. "Why the hell should we pay for what that cheating couple ate?" Sarah shot back indignantly, stepping forward aggressively. "Exactly. They ate, and we have to pay. How does that make any sense?" Olivia, equally furious, chimed in. They were already half dead with anger because of Ethan and Jessica, and now they were expected to pay for that cheating couple? This was outrageous. "Ladies, if you hadn't caused such a scene in our restaurant and disturbed our other guests, perhaps those two wouldn't have forgotten to pay," the waiter explained patiently. "Besides, you clearly know them. Now that they've left, and we can't find them to pay the bill, we have to ask you." "No way. Why should we pay? You're just trying to bully us." "Yeah, we're not paying. What are you going to do about it?" Sarah and Olivia stood defiantly. "Ladies, if you refuse to pay, I'll have to call the police." The waiter had lost his patience and pulled out his iPhone, ready to make the call. At that moment, the other customers were still watching, many still recording Instagram reels. Sarah looked at the waiter, then at the gawking onlookers. She started to panic. This is completely unfair. Why should we pay?" "I won't pay, I just won't." Sarah pouted, her face full of indignation. She felt like the whole world was against her, everyone laughing at her. She wanted the ground to swallow her up, feeling like a total clown. Olivia saw the other onlookers pointing and whispering about them, and felt deeply embarrassed. She hesitated for a moment, then tugged Sarah's sleeve. "Sarah, maybe we should just pay? If they call the police, it'll be even more trouble for us." Right now, Olivia just wanted to escape this mortifying place. Facing everyone's stares, she could barely lift her head. But Sarah looked at the waiter, then back at the crowd of onlookers, her expression conflicted. After a long hesitation, she finally gritted her teeth and gave in. "Fine, we'll pay. We'll pay all right." Sarah grudgingly pulled out her iPhone, ready to scan the payment code. "Okay, the total for their table comes to $360, the waiter said, his polite tone instantly returning. "What? That much?" Sarah froze, feeling the sting. She didn't have much money left as it was. She couldn't believe that cheating couple steak dinner cost $360. Paying $360 for them felt worse than death. "Miss, if you have any questions, you can look at the itemized bill later," the waiter said patiently. Fine. I'll pay. Okay." Sarah spat out through gritted teeth, accepting her bad luck. Then, wincing with pain, she paid Ethan and Jessica's bill. After paying, the two women practically fled the restaurant, looking utterly miserable and humiliated. "This is infuriating. That cheating couple went way too far. Arg, I'm so mad. Seriously, making us pay for their meal. That cheating couple, they're not even human. And the worst part is, they made us look like complete fools. It's just too much." Under a streetlight, Sarah and Olivia, two Valley girls, replayed the scene in the restaurant. A firestorm of helpless anger churned inside them. The more they thought about it, the angrier they got, until they wanted nothing more than to rip that cheating couple limb from limb, right then and there. "And Jessica, she promised me she wouldn't do anything to betray me with my husband. And now she's hooking up with him. I can't believe I treated her like my BFF. I never knew she was such a gold digger. Arg, I'm going to explode. What infuriated Sarah the most wasn't the bill, but the betrayal by Jessica and Ethan. It made her feel utterly exposed and humiliated, like everyone knew she'd been cheated on. How could she possibly swallow this? The night streets bustled with activity. At this moment, on one particular street, passers-by couldn't help but steal glances toward a specific spot. There, two beautiful women were ranting and raving, venting the fury in their hearts. If not for their well-chosen attire and striking looks, they might have been mistaken for lunatics long ago. After a long while, once Sarah and Olivia had spent their impotent rage, they finally managed to calm down somewhat. Olivia, what am I supposed to do now? Once Sarah regained her composure, she seemed utterly helpless. Despair filled her heart now. Before, even though Ethan didn't want to remarry her, he was still single. She had thought, given his circumstances, finding another woman to marry wouldn't be that easy for him. She figured that by using the child and employing some persistent coaxing, she could definitely convince Ethan to take her back. After all, they had history. But now, Ethan was actually with Jessica. Her entire plan had instantly crumbled. That was Jessica, worth billions, with a figure and looks far superior to her own. Now, Ethan had absolutely no reason to leave Jessica and remarry her. Who would have thought that Jessica would actually fall for Ethan? Isn't she a top-tier socialite? Her standards should be sky-high. How could a man like Ethan attract her? Olivia sighed softly, watching Sarah's tear-streaked, heartbroken face. She was completely out of ideas now, too. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed in a million years that a super socialite like Jessica could fall for Ethan. Now that Ethan had Jessica, there was naturally no way he'd come back to remarry Sarah. One is a super socialite worth billions. The other is an ex-wife with a serious case of princess syndrome. Any man with half a brain would know who to choose. Only an idiot would pick Sarah. That was the most awkward part of Sarah's current situation. Olivia, help me think of something. If Ethan really won't remarry me, what am I going to do? Seeing her BFF just sighing, Sarah grew anxious. Olivia thought for a long time, then looked up at Sarah and said slowly, Sarah, maybe you should just get an abortion. What? Sarah froze, staring wide-eyed at her, seemingly stunned that Olivia would suggest such a thing. Olivia sighed again, her expression pessimistic. Sarah, before, Ethan was single, and there was still a chance you two could get back together. But now he has Jessica. He definitely won't remarry you. Besides, you're not even sure if this baby in your belly is Ethan's. There's really no point in keeping it. Hearing her friend's earnest, albeit harsh, advice, Sarah's face instantly paled. She bit her lip. Olivia, you know I have trouble conceiving. If I terminate this pregnancy, I might never be able to get pregnant again. I might never be a mother in my entire life. A woman who can't have children. Who would marry me then? Tears welled up uncontrollably in Sarah's eyes. At this moment, her heart was filled with utter despair. She had managed to conceive this child only with great difficulty. This might be the only child she would ever have. If she aborted it, she might truly lose her only chance to be a mother. And after terminating the pregnancy, when she looked for someone to marry later, who would want a woman who couldn't bear children? Besides, she wasn't young anymore, already approaching 30. Olivia shook her head helplessly and advised softly, Sarah, what's the point of having this baby then? Even if it is Ethan's, he won't remarry you. And later, as a single mother who also can't have more children, even fewer men will want you. But, Sarah opened her mouth, but couldn't find the words to refute. Yes, what good would having this baby do? So what if it was Ethan's? Ethan was with Jessica now. He wouldn't remarry her. At that moment, Sarah's face was deathly pale, a profound sense of powerlessness washing over her. The more Sarah thought about it, the closer she felt to breaking down. Sob, I was wrong, Olivia, I was so wrong. I shouldn't have divorced him. If only I hadn't divorced him. Olivia, I messed up. Sarah suddenly burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably as tears streamed down her face. In that instant, regret consumed her. If she had known things would turn out like this, she would never have agreed to the divorce, no matter what. Sigh. Watching her BFF dissolve into tears, Olivia felt helpless. Ultimately, this whole trial separation was to blame. If Sarah hadn't initiated the divorce back then, she would still be the same Sarah Ethan doted on, spoiling her like a valley girl. But now, Sarah was alone. Ethan no longer pampered her. Sure, she got over $30,000 in the settlement. But by now, thanks to Sarah's spending habits, there wasn't much left. It probably wouldn't last her much longer. Okay, Sarah, stop crying. We need to think about ourselves now. In a couple of days, I'll go with you to get the abortion. Olivia stepped forward, patting her shoulder and comforting her softly. Sarah looked up, her eyes brimming with tears, her body trembling with sobs. After hesitating for a long time, she finally lowered her head as if accepting her fate. Sob. Oh, okay. Meanwhile, at a Holiday Inn, Ethan and Jessica were in their room, eating takeout they had just ordered. Since it was their first date, they had decided not to return to the manor tonight. They got a hotel room instead, planning to enjoy some private time together. Here, these shrimp are delicious. Eat more. Jessica placed a bowl of freshly peeled shrimp in front of Ethan. Why aren't you eating? You've just been peeling shrimp for me. Ethan sighed softly, looking at Jessica's happy expression, feeling touched. Truth be told, Ethan hadn't eaten much at the restaurant before Sarah and Olivia interrupted them. Logically, Jessica probably hadn't eaten her fill either, yet after ordering takeout, she barely touched her own food, focusing solely on peeling shrimp for him. All because he had casually mentioned earlier that the shrimp were good. I'm full. You hurry up and eat. You have to finish all the shrimp I peeled for you. No wasting allowed. Jessica giggled, then put on a mock serious face, warning him to eat every last shrimp in the bowl. All right, I'll eat. Ethan smiled resignedly, picked up a shrimp with his chopsticks, and began to eat. He could feel that since getting together with Jessica, this girl doted on him even more. She doted on him openly, without reservation. Is it good? Jessica blinked her large, sparkling eyes, asking expectantly. Delicious. You have one too. Ethan nodded with a smile, then picked up a shrimp and fed it to her. Jessica immediately opened her mouth wide, accepting his offering with obvious delight. It really is good. Jessica savored the shrimp, looking completely content. It was 11 p.m., and the night was deep. The bustling city, noisy all day, had gradually quieted down. In a lavishly decorated room at a Holiday Inn, Ethan lay on the soft king-size bed, idly scrolling through Instagram reels on his phone to pass the time. In the bathroom, Jessica was showering, the constant rush of water filling the air and stirring a restlessness within Ethan. He turned his head towards the bathroom, his gaze fixed on the frosted glass door, where he could just make out a shapely and voluptuous figure. In an instant, his desire for his phone vanished, replaced by a different kind of craving. Ethan, get a grip. You've seen it all before, he chided himself, shaking his head to clear the inappropriate thoughts and forcing himself to look away. He took a deep breath, calming his slightly agitated emotions before returning to his phone. A few minutes later, the sound of water stopped. Soon, Jessica emerged, wrapped in a bath towel. Her hair was damp from the shower, droplets clinging to the ends. Her fair face was flushed, and her large eyes were watery. His gaze drifted downwards, taking in her slender, pale neck, delicate collarbones, and fair shoulders, all exposed to the air. Her skin was dewy, as if it would yield water with the slightest pinch. She smelled wonderful, and Ethan could catch her scent even from across the room. Honey, here I come. Jessica's eyes sparkled as she gave Ethan a sweet smile, kicked off her slippers, and eagerly climbed onto the bed, nestling into his arms. She nuzzled her head against his firm chest, a look of infatuation and pleasure spreading across her face. Ethan held her soft, fragrant body, inhaling her rich perfume. He suddenly realized that scrolling on his phone wasn't so appealing anymore. Holding Jessica was much better. Behave, or I might just ravish you right here and now, Ethan said, trying to suppress his lustful thoughts as he gently lifted Jessica's smooth chin. Looking at her breathtakingly beautiful face, he warned her with a smile. Jessica's allure was overwhelming. Her figure and face were simply unfair. Even though they had already experienced everything a married couple should, Ethan still found it hard to resist. Try it. I'm not afraid, Jessica retorted, tilting her chin defiantly, her bright eyes meeting his without a hint of fear. She and Ethan were together, married with a certificate. She was his now. She wouldn't be afraid of anything he might do to her. All right, you asked for it. Since Jessica had said so, Ethan didn't hold back. He leaned in and kissed her delicate lips. A hint of joy flashed across Jessica's face as she obediently closed her eyes, looking completely content. However, Ethan only gave her a light peck before pulling away, leaving Jessica staring at him with a puzzled expression, clearly wanting more. She had been expecting a romantic, passionate kiss, at least 10 minutes long. Instead, it was just a quick peck, and then it was over. What's wrong? Jessica blinked, looking confused. Ethan said seriously, I can't kiss you anymore, or I won't be able to control myself. Jessica said nonchalantly, if you can't control yourself, then don't. We're married, and we've already done it. As she spoke, Jessica blushed. Memories of their intimate encounter last night flooding her mind. But Ethan shook his head. No, last night was your first time. You almost cried. I'll let you off the hook tonight. We have a long life together. Just rest well tonight. Ethan spoke softly, his tone full of love and tenderness for Jessica. Last night, they had crossed the final line, but it was Jessica's first time. Although Ethan was feeling lustful, he wasn't that impatient. He cared more about Jessica's feelings than satisfying his own desires. Hearing Ethan's words, Jessica paused, looking at him in surprise. Seeing the tenderness in his eyes, she felt a warmth spread through her heart. She hadn't expected Ethan to be so considerate of her feelings. Ethan, you're so good. Jessica couldn't help but lean in and peck him on the lips. Looking at Ethan, her love for him grew with each passing moment, and she couldn't hide the affection in her eyes. You're my wife. If I'm not good to you, who else would I be good to? Ethan ruffled her hair, his face full of doting affection. Will you be good to me forever? Jessica's watery eyes were filled with anticipation and longing. She truly wanted to be with Ethan forever, their love always so strong, never separated. Ethan chuckled, finding her expression adorable. He couldn't resist pinching her fair cheek. Of course, you're my wife for this lifetime. Of course I'll be good to you forever. Hearing Ethan's promise, Jessica's eyes lit up and a joyful smile bloomed on her beautiful face. Husband, you're the best. Jessica hugged Ethan tightly, resting her head against his chest, inhaling his scent and listening to his strong heartbeat. She felt completely content. At that moment, Jessica felt like the happiest woman in the world. At the same time, she was grateful that she had waited 17 years for Ethan and never given up. If she had given up on Ethan and compromised by being with someone else, she might have missed out on him forever. All those 17 years of waiting had been worth it. Ethan held her soft body, feeling completely content as well. He couldn't stop thinking about what had happened at the barbecue restaurant. Sarah had been aggressive, like a shrew, but Jessica had immediately stepped forward to protect him, defending him so resolutely. The feeling of being protected had filled Ethan with indescribable emotions. It was at that moment that he had vowed in his heart to cherish this girl forever and never let her down. And so, they lay in bed, embracing each other, savoring this quiet, blissful moment. Ethan, can I touch your abs? In the quiet room, Jessica had been nestled in Ethan's arms for 2 weeks, and she was starting to get a little restless. She tilted her pretty face up and asked with a grin. She'd been obsessed with Ethan's abs long before they were officially a couple. But back then, they hadn't taken that final step. So Jessica had the desire, but not the nerve. Even though she was dying to touch them, she pretended not to care. But things were different now. They were together. Their relationship was as intimate as could be. Now, she could openly admit her craving for Ethan's abs. Ethan looked down at Jessica's big, bright eyes and couldn't help but find it amusing. Tell me, he chuckled, you've been wanting to touch my abs for a while now, haven't you? He remembered seeing her at the fitness center, catching her sneaking glances at his abs, sometimes intentionally, sometimes not, always followed by a cute, pouty expression. Even back then, Ethan had suspected Jessica had a thing for his abs, but he never had any proof back then. Now, here she was, not even bothering to pretend anymore, directly asking to touch his abs. Looks like his hunch was right all along. Yep, I've been obsessed with them forever. You're only just figuring that out? Jessica admitted it freely, lifting her chin with a slightly smug expression. Her look seemed to say, that's right, I want your abs. What are you going to do about it? Uh-huh. So you've had designs on me for a long time. Huh. So what if I have? You're my man now. I can touch your abs whenever I want. With that, not even waiting for Ethan's consent, Jessica slid her hand under his shirt. Ethan instantly felt a small, warm hand exploring his abs, fingers playfully roaming and occasionally poking. You're quite the little pervert, aren't you? Ethan watched her with mock exasperation, his tone holding no annoyance, only pure indulgence. He didn't stop Jessica's playful antics, letting her have her way with his abs. Who knew Jessica would get so addicted? She got completely engrossed, showing no signs of stopping. Haven't you had enough yet? Ethan asked with a sigh. I feel like I could do this all night. Jessica looked up, her eyes sparkling with delight, clearly tireless. Ethan rolled his eyes, protesting playfully, Nope, this isn't fair. If you get to touch mine, I should get to touch your pecs. Confusion flickered across Jessica's face. She shook her head. Ethan, I don't have pee. But before she could finish, realization dawned. Her cheeks flushed red, and she ducked her head shyly. You jerk. Jessica buried her face in his chest, giving his peck a light thump, her face burning. Her heart was pounding like crazy, feeling like it might leap right out of her throat. Okay, I was just teasing, Ethan said. Even if you offered, I wouldn't touch. I'm not a perv like some people, he declared righteously. In reality, he desperately wanted to touch her. He was just afraid he wouldn't be able to stop himself. Jessica's figure was simply divine. He worried that if he started, he wouldn't be able to control himself and would end up taking her right then and there. After all, he'd promised he'd let Jessica rest properly tonight. No funny business. If he broke his promise, he wouldn't be able to respect himself. I am not a perv, Jessica pouted indignantly. All right. You can have 10 more minutes. Then we sleep. It's getting late. Ethan glanced at the wall clock. It was nearly midnight. Normally, he'd already be asleep by now. Nope, 20 minutes. Jessica looked up, ready to haggle. 10 minutes was way too short. It would be over in a flash. Nope, just 10 minutes. No, 15 minutes. No, I said 10 minutes, and that's final. Then, how about 12 minutes? No, 10 minutes. Fine. All right then. Finally, Jessica pouted and reluctantly gave in. 10 minutes later, Ethan turned off the light, ready for sleep. Jessica, however, decided to play dirty and still hadn't removed her hand. Helpless against her antics, Ethan could only close his eyes and try to sleep. He drifted off quickly. Jessica continued her exploration for a little while longer before an irresistible yawn escaped her. A heavy wave of drowsiness washed over her. She looked up at Ethan, her eyes glistening softly in the darkness. Good night, my Ethan, she whispered with a smile, then snuggled back into Ethan's arms and drifted into a deep sleep. For the next 2 weeks, Ethan and Jessica were inseparable, completely wrapped up in each other. Being a new couple, they wished they could spend every single second glued to each other's side. This was especially true for Jessica, who had carried a torch for Ethan for 17 long years. Now that her dream had finally come true and she was with him, she wanted to cling to him every moment of the day. She poured all her years of longing and fervent affection onto him. One evening at dusk, Ethan was sitting on the lawn of the manor, enjoying the evening breeze and watching the sunset. He held the girl he loved close. Ethan felt that life couldn't possibly get any happier than this. Just then his phone rang. It was Alex Carter. Hey, Ethan, want to grab a drink? Alex Carter rarely used to ask Ethan Thompson out for drinks. Back then, Sarah Thompson kept a tight leash on him, and he hardly ever went out at night. Even if Alex Carter had asked, Ethan Thompson wouldn't have been able to go. But things were different now that Ethan Thompson and Sarah Thompson were separated. Since Ethan Thompson had separated from Sarah Thompson, Jessica Smith wasn't like Sarah Thompson at all. She wouldn't try to restrict Ethan Thompson's every move. Speaking of which, he still owed them that steak dinner. Location sent. See you there. Alex Carter reminded him before hanging up. Ethan, are you going out? Jessica Smith looked up from his embrace, asking a little nervously. She had been incredibly clingy lately. She missed him even if they were apart for just a moment. If Ethan Thompson went out tonight, she wouldn't be able to cling to him. Yeah, I am. Ethan Thompson nodded with a smile. Seeing her crestfallen look, he gave her bottom a playful pat. Go get changed. You're coming with me. Jessica Smith's eyes instantly lit up, an irrepressible smile spreading across her face. Okay. It was 8 p.m., and night had already fallen over the bustling city center. Inside a restaurant, Alex and Emily sat in a private room on the second floor, waiting for Ethan to arrive. I wonder how things are going between Ethan and Jessica. And that birthday gift we picked out for him to give her, I wonder if she liked it? Emily murmured to herself, sipping her juice. Ever since Jessica's birthday had passed, and they'd helped Ethan choose the perfect gift, Emily couldn't stop thinking about it. Even though it was Ethan and Jessica's business, helping pick the gift made her feel involved. She was genuinely curious about how their relationship was progressing. Did Jessica like the gift? Had anything significant happened between them? Stop worrying about it, Alex said with a resigned sigh, pursing his lips. Knowing Ethan, he won't be confessing anytime soon. Remember how chicken he was last time I told him to just tell her? It'll probably take ages for him to work up the nerve. Alex cared about their progress too, but Ethan was just too timid. The guy would never make a move unless he was absolutely sure about Jessica's feelings. Alex figured it would take a long time. Who knew when that day would finally come? Maybe when hell froze over. Yeah, you're right. Ethan's way too cautious to risk confessing easily. Emily nodded in agreement. For some reason, watching Ethan and Jessica's budding romance made her more anxious than the two people actually involved. It felt like she was more invested in their relationship than they were. She didn't know why she was so impatient. She just really wanted to see them get together properly, happy and sweet. That would satisfy her own hopes for them. Suddenly remembering something, Emily turned to Alex. Hey, you're Ethan's best buddy, right? When he gets here, ask him when he's actually going to confess. You don't have to tell me. I was already planning on it. Damn, watching them date is driving me crazy. Alex had already decided. Ethan was finally divorced, and now he'd met this incredible socialite. Alex was more invested than anyone in seeing if Ethan could actually pull this off and marry into wealth. It was the kind of thing you rarely saw in real life. His best friend had stumbled into this amazing opportunity. He couldn't let him blow it. Speaking of which, Emily, Alex turned to his girlfriend, his eyes gleaming with interest. What do you think the odds are? Do you really think Ethan can land Jessica and live the good life? Emily thought for a moment before answering uncertainly. Maybe. I really get the feeling Jessica likes him. The question is whether Ethan can seize the opportunity. Emily didn't want to speak too definitively. After all, Jessica had never actually admitted to liking Ethan. It was all just her own speculation. Plus, the most crucial factor was Jessica's dazzling status. Ethan really did seem a bit out of her league. Whenever Emily pictured them together, it felt slightly unreal, somehow mismatched. True, we're talking about Jessica, after all, worth billions and gorgeous too. Alex nodded. Every time he pictured Jessica, he felt stunned. A girl that beautiful and super rich on top of it. With his buddy Ethan, it really didn't seem like a match. Ethan's current situation wasn't exactly impressive, after all. Just then, the door to the private room swung open. Hearing the noise, they both turned to see Ethan walk in. Finally, we've been waiting forever. Alex, already impatient, started to complain the moment he saw Ethan. But then he saw who was following Ethan, pulled along by the hand. Jessica. Alex's eyes instantly widened in disbelief. Emily froze too, completely stunned. They had only called Ethan tonight, asking him to hang out. They never expected Jessica to come along too. And not just come along. Ethan was holding her hand as they walked in. That was significant. Ordinary friends didn't hold hands like that, did they? Only couples held hands, right? As this thought struck them, a bold idea popped into both Alex's and Emily's minds simultaneously. Could it be Ethan and Jessica were actually together? Ethan, still holding Jessica's hand, saw Alex and Emily frozen in place as soon as he entered the room. He was instantly confused. What's wrong with you two? Why are you staring at us like that? Ethan and Jessica glanced at each other, equally bewildered by their friend's stunned silence. Ethan, you and Jessica. Alex pointed at their joined, intertwined hands, looking like he wanted to ask something but couldn't quite find the words. Jessica and I are together now. Ethan admitted straightforwardly with a small smile. Jessica seemed a little embarrassed, her cheeks flushing slightly as she shyly lowered her gaze. But the corners of her lips kept turning up into an irrepressible smile, and her bright eyes were filled with a joy she couldn't hide. After all, this was the first time Ethan had brought her to meet his friends. It was also the first time she was appearing before them as Ethan's girlfriend. What? Hearing Ethan admitted himself, Alex and Emily were utterly dumbfounded. They had just been speculating about whether Ethan and Jessica were together, but hearing the confirmation straight from Ethan still shocked them. Moments ago, they were talking about how, knowing Ethan, it would take ages for him to confess. And now, in the blink of an eye, Ethan had walked in holding Jessica's hand and told them they were a couple. Alex and Emily were completely floored. They couldn't believe that after only 2 weeks, Ethan and Jessica were already together. Things had moved way too fast. Both of them felt a sense of unreality. This was especially true for Alex. While he had genuinely hoped Ethan and Jessica would end up together, allowing Ethan to marry into that incredible wealth, now that it had actually happened, he felt completely thrown. This was Jessica, worth billions. And her looks, her figure, calling her one in a million wasn't exaggeration. Such breathtaking beauty, combined with her status as a top socialite. And she was actually with his buddy Ethan. For a moment, Alex felt like the world had gone mad. All right, Jessica and I are together now. What's with the big reaction? Ethan shot them a slightly exasperated look before pulling Jessica down to sit. Alex couldn't help but press, still finding it a bit surreal. Emily was handling it slightly better, having calmed down a bit, but her expression remained dazed, as if she hadn't fully processed the news. Wait, you guys are really together? Yeah, we are, Ethan confirmed with a nod, then glanced at Jessica, his eyes full of affection. Jessica looked back at Alex and Emily with a slightly shy smile, but her eyes were bright, and an irrepressible grin lit up her face. She was clearly delighted. Okay, enough talk. I'm starving. Let's order, Ethan said, deciding to ignore their lingering shock. He picked up the menu and started ordering. Some time passed. The food arrived, and Alex and Emily gradually regained their composure. The four began to eat, though Alex and Emily were clearly distracted. So, Ethan, Alex finally broke the silence, curiosity getting the better of him. Jessica's birthday. You confessed to her that night, right? Now that he'd calmed down, he noticed the necklace around Jessica's neck. It was unmistakably the $100,000 one Ethan had bought. It seemed obvious. Ethan must have given Jessica the necklace for her birthday, confessed his feelings, and then, naturally, they got together. Emily wasn't focused on her food either, looking up with an expression eager for gossip. She was incredibly curious about what had happened between Ethan and Jessica over the past few days. Just 2 weeks ago, Ethan hadn't dared to confess. Now, in the blink of an eye, they were a couple. It all felt rather sudden to her. Hearing Alex's question, before Ethan could reply, Jessica looked up, a little embarrassed. Ethan didn't confess to me. I confessed to him. What? You confessed to him? Alex was floored again. He hadn't expected Jessica to be the one to make the first move. The Jessica? A renowned socialite like her, confessing to Ethan first? Did Ethan save the galaxy in a past life, or something? How'd he get so lucky? Beyond the shock, Alex felt a sharp pang of envy. Of course, some things instantly clicked into place. No wonder Ethan hadn't seemed like he had the guts to confess. It was Jessica who took the initiative. That made perfect sense. Emily was also quite surprised. She hadn't expected Jessica to confess first either. Then again, it confirmed her earlier suspicions. Jessica truly liked Ethan, liked him a lot. Emily hesitated for a moment, but couldn't hold back her curiosity. Jessica, can I ask, how long have you liked Ethan? Alex's interest was piqued too. He'd grown up with Ethan and was equally curious about when this incredible woman had fallen for his friend. Though a little shy, Jessica mustered her courage and answered frankly. Actually, I've liked Ethan for a very long time, since I was 10 years old. 10. Alex and Emily stared at each other, mirroring the shock in each other's eyes. Emily had suspected Jessica had liked Ethan for a while, but she hadn't imagined it started that early. Since she was 10? Alex was the most stunned. He'd known Ethan practically forever. He couldn't fathom that when Ethan was just a kid, a girl from such a wealthy background already had a crush on him. I grew up with Ethan too. Why didn't any wealthy girls fall for me? He thought wryly. Jessica nodded gently and continued. I liked Ethan even back then. Just to see him every day, I used to follow him around. I was scared of being noticed, so I only dared to watch from a distance. Later, for him, I went to the same middle school, high school, and university. I've liked him for 17 years now. Jessica recounted her long-held secret crush in a soft voice. Before, she'd publicly claimed she wasn't interested in marriage, terrified someone might discover her feelings for Ethan. But now, she wasn't afraid anymore. Ethan was hers. No one could take him away. Now, she practically wanted the whole world to know that Ethan belonged to her. Jessica. What she didn't notice was that as she reminisced, Ethan, sitting beside her, was watching her with an incredibly gentle gaze. Holy crap, Ethan. Jessica liked you for 17 years. 17 whole years. Alex exclaimed, looking deeply moved. He couldn't wrap his head around it. His best friend, whom he'd known since childhood, had been secretly loved by someone for that long. 17 years. What kind of devotion was that? How deeply must someone love to hold on to feelings for 17 years? In that moment, beyond the envy, Alex felt a profound sense of blessing for them both. For Ethan, ending up with someone like Jessica seemed like incredible luck. But for Jessica, it was the culmination of 17 years of waiting. If Ethan hadn't gotten divorced, she might never have married, perhaps waiting forever. Being with Ethan now meant everything to her. It hadn't been easy. Of course, wasn't this also a blessing from fate? Such pure love was rare in real life. He genuinely wished Ethan and Jessica would stay together forever. Meanwhile, Emily looked at Jessica with deep admiration. She'd guessed Jessica liked Ethan a lot, but hearing her admit to 17 years of feelings was still startling. She hadn't realized the depth of Jessica's love. As a woman herself, she found it hard to imagine being so steadfast. 17 years. Jessica had just waited for 17 years. She had even been prepared to wait forever, claiming she'd never marry, just to hold out hope for Ethan. Who wouldn't envy a love like that? Ethan, you'd better treat Jessica well from now on, understand? She's like you for so long. You absolutely cannot let her down. Emily sighed softly, unable to resist cautioning him. Jessica's love was so pure, so persistent. She truly, deeply loved Ethan, cautiously, yet completely. If that love were betrayed, Emily couldn't even imagine Jessica's despair. Yeah, Ethan, you have to treat Jessica right. You won't ever find another girl like her, Alex added earnestly. If Ethan messed this up with such a treasure, Alex would feel sorry for him. Do you even need to tell me? Ethan turned to Jessica, gazing at the girl whose eyes held only him. He couldn't resist gently ruffling her hair, stating firmly, I'll spend my life treating her right. Feeling Ethan's tenderness, a gentle wave of happiness washed over Jessica. She smiled softly and murmured, Ethan, I'll be good to you too. Seeing the couple looking so affectionate, Alex and Emily exchanged a glance, finally feeling reassured. For the rest of the meal, the group chatted while they ate. Jessica was clearly in high spirits tonight, a constant smile gracing her face. Throughout the meal, she kept placing food on Ethan's plate, and the glances she sent his way were filled with a deep, tender affection. Sitting across from them, Alex Carter and Emily watched the intimate couple and couldn't help but share an amused, knowing smile. Soon, they were mostly finished with their meal. Ethan and Alex excused themselves to the restroom, leaving Emily and Jessica alone in the private room. Jessica, Emily began, looking at her with a gentle smile. Actually, that time Ethan got drunk and you came to pick him up, I could tell. I suspected you liked him. I just wasn't entirely sure. That was also the first time she had met Jessica. Ethan had just divorced Sarah back then and was completely devastated, utterly downcast. He tried to drown his sorrows and ended up getting completely wasted. She still remembered the scene. Jessica rushing over, her eyes only for Ethan, filled with concern and heartache as she looked at him. Emily had thought then that Jessica must definitely like Ethan. But at the time, Jessica had publicly claimed she didn't believe in marriage. That's why Emily hadn't been certain. Thinking back now, it wasn't really about not believing in marriage. It was probably just that she couldn't be with the person she loved. Honestly, as a fellow woman, she really admired Jessica. To love someone so steadfastly, waiting patiently, for so many years. If it were her, she definitely couldn't have done it. She would have given up long ago. Fortunately, fate hadn't let Jessica down. She really did get Ethan in the end. You could tell back then? Jessica blinked, her pretty face flushing slightly, seemingly a little embarrassed. Honestly, I wasn't thinking too much about it then, Jessica explained with a shy smile, recalling her feelings at the time. I just saw Ethan was drunk and wanted to get him home quickly and take care of him. So that's how it was. Emily nodded in understanding. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, she added a word of caution. But Jessica, you need to be careful. Ethan's ex-wife, Sarah, definitely won't let this go easily. After all, she only meant to lend you her husband. She never expected you two to actually get together. Right now, I bet she's absolutely furious. She might even try to break you and Ethan up later. You have to keep a close eye on Ethan and not give Sarah any openings. Thinking about Ethan's ex-wife, Emily still found the whole situation surreal and utterly mind-blowing. Of course, the final outcome was completely unexpected. Who would have thought Ethan and Jessica would actually end up together? Sarah only intended to lend her husband to Jessica. She surely never imagined Jessica had been secretly in love with him for 17 years. Her actions ended up handing Ethan right over to Jessica. Sarah must be kicking herself now, regretting it bitterly. Naturally, after something like this, Sarah definitely wouldn't take it lying down. She's probably already scheming how to snatch Ethan back. That's why Emily gave Jessica this well-intentioned warning. After all, Jessica had waited 17 years. Now that she was finally with Ethan, how devastated would Jessica be if Sarah managed to take him back? As for Sarah, she had brought her current situation entirely upon herself. She didn't deserve any sympathy. Don't worry, Jessica said with determination. I'll keep Ethan firmly by my side. I won't let Sarah take him away again. She had waited 17 years and finally gotten together with Ethan. She wouldn't let him leave her, no matter what. She would cherish this hard-won relationship more than anyone. That's good. I really hope you two stay this happy forever. As for Ethan's ex-wife, well, she deserves it. Meanwhile, in the restroom, Ethan was washing his hands at the sink, while Alex Carter stood staring at his own unremarkable face in the mirror, lost in thought. You've been staring at the mirror for half an hour now. Haven't you had enough? Ethan glanced at him, exasperated. Alex Carter turned to him, looking contemplative. Ethan, there's just something I don't get. What don't you get? Ethan asked, momentarily puzzled. Ethan, think about it. We grew up together, lived in the same village, went to the same elementary school, middle school, high school, and university. So why is it that a super socialite like Jessica had a secret crush on you, but not me? I'm clearly better looking than you, right? It's just not logical, Alex added, genuinely perplexed. Growing up, he and Ethan were practically inseparable. Crucially, He considered himself slightly better looking than Ethan. So why didn't a super socialite like Jessica fall for him? Ethan rolled his eyes, utterly speechless. That's just fate, man. You need to accept reality. But Alex Carter didn't seem ready to give up. Ethan, he pressed, do you think it's possible that there's a girl like Jessica out there who had a crush on me, but she never approached me because I got together with Emily? Ethan chuckled at that. What, you want your girlfriend's BFF to be in love with you, just like me? Alex Carter nodded, his tone thick with undisguised envy. Yeah, Ethan, I wish I had your luck. Having a super socialite secretly in love with you for years. Then, just when you get out of that toxic relationship, she appears like a goddess descending from the heavens. She pulls you out of the mire, lets you live comfortably off her wealth, so you never have to slave away at a job or struggle ever again in your life. Damn it, just imagining myself in your shoes feels amazing, Alex said, an envious expression spreading across his face. Ethan's life now, after getting together with Jessica, was a complete, earth-shattering reversal of his previous existence. Before, Ethan worked every day, treated like a beast of burden by his boss. Then he'd come home only to have to wait on Sarah. His life was harder than a dog's. But now, Ethan didn't have to work anymore. He had more money than he could ever spend. He didn't have to serve anyone. Instead, he was waited on daily. And he had a wife as beautiful as a flower. Who wouldn't envy such a heavenly life? Hey man, Ethan Thompson shook his head, exasperated. Having your wife's BFF fall for you? You think that happens to everyone? My situation is pretty rare, okay? Stop dreaming about it. You never know, Ethan. Maybe some girl does like me. Alex Carter retorted, unconvinced. Why should you be the only one a rich beauty falls for, and not me? Ethan Thompson glanced at him, amused. Well, does your Emily have a BFF? Maybe her BFF has a secret crush on you. Alex Carter nodded. Yeah, of course Emily has a BFF. And is your Emily's BFF also a wealthy heiress? Not exactly. She's more of a 200 yards girl. Sometimes words just fail. Ethan couldn't be bothered dealing with Alex anymore and walked straight out of the restroom. Watching Ethan's retreating back, Alex Carter felt the immense gap between their situations keenly. Damn it. Ethan's wife's BFF was a super socialite worth billions. His girlfriend's BFF? A 200 yards girl. Comparing people really is infuriating. It was 10 p.m., already getting late. After a brief farewell outside the restaurant, Ethan Thompson and Jessica Smith got into the Rolls-Royce and drove off. Watching the Rolls-Royce disappear into the night, Alex Carter stood under a streetlight, sighing softly, a touch of emotion on his face. He knew his good buddy, Ethan Thompson, was living a different life now, completely free from his past. Although he couldn't help but feel a bit left behind, deep down, he was happy for Ethan. Seeing his friend doing better and better put his mind at ease. Come on, stop staring. We should head back, Emily said, gently patting his shoulder before turning toward a van parked by the roadside. Not everyone gets Ethan Thompson's kind of luck. Alex Carter was just an ordinary folks. This van was all he could afford. Before getting in, Alex Carter suddenly stopped and looked at Emily beside him. Emily, they say watch out for thieves, watch out for fire, watch out for your BFF. You think there's any chance your BFF likes me? Emily rolled her eyes at him. My BFF is over 200 pounds and a total homebody. If she liked you, I'd gladly hand you over. You interested? Alex Carter imagined being pinned down by a girlfriend weighing over 200 pounds and couldn't help but shudder. Never mind, never mind. Forget I said anything. TSH, can't take a joke, jerk. Early morning, the sky filled with the rosy hues of dawn. A ray of sunlight pierced through the glass, spilling into the spacious, luxurious room. On the soft, large bed, an alarm clock rang right on time. Ethan Thompson woke up and immediately reached for his iPhone to turn off the alarm. Then, he looked down at Jessica Smith in his arms. Seeing she hadn't been woken up, he let out a soft sigh of relief. He gently removed Jessica's arms from around him, preparing to get up for his morning run. What are you doing? Jessica Smith opened her eyes, glanced at him, and hugged him tighter. You're awake. Ethan hadn't expected her to wake up. I was going for my morning run. No way. Stay in bed with me. Jessica pouted, holding him tightly, greedily nuzzling her head against his chest with a look of pure satisfaction. Ethan was a bit exasperated. Didn't you used to run every morning too? Why did you stop? That was just to chase you, Jessica said matter-of-factly. Now that you're mine, why would I still go running? I've hated exercise my whole life. If it hadn't been for Ethan, she never would have gotten up so early to run. Now that Ethan was hers, she certainly didn't want to run anymore. Ethan shook his head with a wry smile. So you won't go running, and you won't let me go either? Isn't that a bit demanding? I don't care. I just want you to stay in bed with me. Jessica snuggled against him, her tone playfully stubborn and possessive, like a valley girl. But the next moment, Ethan tilted her chin up with his finger, looking at her delicate, beautiful face. But I'm used to my morning runs. If I don't go, I'll have all this pent-up energy. What should I do about it? Jessica felt the heat in Ethan's gaze, and a sense of foreboding rose in her heart. Her cheeks couldn't help but flush. What are you thinking? This. Ethan flipped over, pinning Jessica beneath him. Ah, Jessica cried out. And then, despite not wanting to exercise, she was forced to work out with Ethan all morning. 10 in the morning, Green Valley Memorial Hospital. The hospital lobby was bustling, crowded with patients. Sarah, wait for me. Where are you going? Sarah Young strode through the crowded lobby towards the hospital exit, carrying a suitcase, while Olivia Young chased after her, calling out. But Sarah Young didn't even glance back, just kept walking, seemingly desperate to leave the hospital. This left Olivia Young completely bewildered. They had clearly agreed that Olivia would accompany Sarah for her abortion clinic visit today. But right after paying the fee, Sarah had suddenly changed, ditching Olivia and storming out of the hospital alone. Olivia felt helpless, but had no choice but to follow. Finally, in the parking garage, Olivia caught Sarah Young's arm. Sarah, where are you going? Didn't we agree you were coming for the abortion clinic visit? Olivia felt frustrated and weary. They had it all planned, and now Sarah was just leaving? What was this? Did she think this was some kind of game? But right then, Sarah Young looked utterly determined. Olivia, I can't go through with the abortion. I refuse to accept this. Ethan Thompson is my husband. Why shouldn't Jessica Smith give him back to me? Ethan Thompson was mine from the start. Why should I just hand him over to her? Besides, this child, maybe it's the only child I'll ever have. If I have an abortion now, I might never be able to have children. It'll be hard for me to find someone else later. I want Ethan Thompson back by my side, back to how things were. We always had a messy marriage, but this is all Jessica Smith's fault. If it weren't for her, Ethan would still be my husband. We'd have this child, and we'd continue our socialite lifestyle. Now, will they expect me to just accept this? Why should I? I won't. Sarah Young spoke with fierce conviction, her expression resolute and unwavering. Truthfully, she had been agonizing for the past 2 days about whether to go through with the abortion. Having the abortion meant accepting defeat. It meant conceding, willingly giving her husband up to Jessica Smith. She would never find another man like Ethan, who spoiled her rotten. Maybe she'd never even get married again. She might end up alone for the rest of her life. After all, what man would want to marry a woman who couldn't have children? She remembered her old socialite lifestyle, being at his beck and call, spoiled like a valley girl by Ethan every day. Then she thought about the miserable, lonely future she'd face after the abortion. Sarah Young changed her mind. Why should she have an abortion? Why should she admit defeat? Ethan Thompson was her husband, hers from the beginning. She had only lent Ethan to Jessica Smith for their trial separation. Jessica had even said she would give him back. Ethan was supposed to be hers. Why did Jessica go back on her word? Why insist on a trial separation? Jessica was the one who wronged her first. Why should she be the one to accept this? Thinking about all this, a stubborn resolve surged within Sarah Young. She would snatch Ethan Thompson, who rightfully belonged to her, back from Jessica Smith's grasp. Looking at the defiant Sarah Young before her, Olivia sighed helplessly. Of course, she knew what Sarah was thinking. She hesitated for a moment, then couldn't help but caution, "But Sarah, have you considered? What if the child you're carrying isn't Ethan Thompson's? But Sarah, have you ever considered what you'll do if the baby you're carrying isn't Ethan Thompson's? I don't care. I refuse to just give up like this. Ethan Thompson belongs to me. He always has. What right does Jessica Smith have to steal my husband? Why won't she give Ethan back to me? He's my husband. I only lent Ethan to Jessica Smith for 2 weeks. She was supposed to give him back. How dare she betray me like this? Why won't she return my husband?" However, despite Olivia Young's warning, Sarah Young remained defiant. In her mind, Ethan Thompson had always belonged to her. It was Jessica Smith who had stolen her husband, who had wronged her. Why should she be the one to give up? Besides, there's still a chance the baby is Ethan's. What if it really is his? If she got an abortion now, there would truly be no turning back. So, Sarah Young's current thinking was simple. Until she knew for sure whether the baby was Ethan's, she absolutely couldn't get an abortion. She could try to win Ethan Thompson back first. She could make Jessica Smith give her husband back. Right now, there was still a chance for her and Ethan Thompson to reconcile. If she had the abortion, she'd truly have burned all her bridges. Sigh. Seeing Sarah Young's stubbornness, Olivia Young sighed helplessly, thinking to herself, if you knew it would come to this, why did you even start? But they were sisters, so she could only think it, not say it out loud. Sarah, I know you don't want to give up, but you really need to think hard about the baby. What if it's not Ethan's? Olivia Young trailed off, but her meaning was clear. If the baby wasn't Ethan's, no amount of effort to win him back would work. After all, what man could tolerate his woman cheating on him and carrying another man's child? Sarah Young bit her lip, her eyes showing a hint of struggle. After a moment, she set her jaw, stubbornly insisting, I can't give up now. If I quit, I'll lose everything for sure. Olivia Young sighed again, feeling utterly helpless, but decided to let her be. All right then, let's wait for the paternity test results before deciding about the abortion. You're already in your third trimester anyway. At 6 months, you can ask Ethan Thompson to go with you to the hospital for an amniocentesis to confirm if the baby is his. Seeing Sarah Young so adamant, Olivia Young didn't know what else to say. After all, Sarah Young's refusal to accept defeat was only human, especially since her marriage had been messy to begin with. This whole situation stemmed from that trial separation. Honestly, as Sarah Young's BFF, what Jessica Smith did was really low. Sarah kindly lent her husband to you, with the understanding he'd be returned. But what did you do? You ended up having a trial separation with her husband. You basically stabbed her in the back and became a homewrecker. No wonder Sarah Young is so furious. Anyone would be upset if this happened to them. Yes, I can't give up now. It's Jessica Smith who wronged me. This is all her fault. She has to give my husband back. Sarah Young nodded, convinced she wasn't wrong at all. It was all Jessica Smith's scheming. She had trusted her so much, even lent her husband to her. And in return, Jessica Smith betrayed her and stole him. How could she possibly swallow this insult? Accept defeat just like that? Never. So, Sarah, what do you want to do now? Olivia Young asked. Sarah Young replied, I need to win Ethan Thompson back. I was his first love, the first woman he ever cared for. He used to love me so much. I believe there's still a place for me in his heart. Ethan Thompson and Jessica Smith have only been together for what? 3 months? Ethan and I have 7 years of history. I believe if I don't give up, he'll definitely come back to me. She felt that Ethan Thompson was just temporarily infatuated with Jessica Smith. After all, they'd only been together for a short while. Ethan couldn't really love Jessica that much. It was probably just a novelty. She and Ethan had 7 years together, and she was his first love. Even if Jessica Smith had money, how could that compare to the 7-year foundation she and Ethan had built? Okay then. Olivia Young thought for a moment, then nodded. Actually, I also think things happened too suddenly between Jessica Smith and Ethan Thompson. I have a feeling it's just about the novelty for them. Think about it. Jessica Smith is so rich and beautiful. She can have any man she wants. Why would she seriously be interested in Ethan Thompson? I think she's probably just playing around with him. Maybe over time, she'll realize Ethan isn't good enough for her and break up with him. After all, Ethan Thompson's situation isn't exactly impressive, is it? Olivia Young shared her opinion. In her view, a socialite like Jessica Smith should end up with someone tall, rich, and handsome, or perhaps an heir from a similarly wealthy family. Ethan Thompson? Definitely not her league. A divorced man, approaching 30, not particularly good-looking, and without much going for him. A guy like that wouldn't even get a second look on the dating market, let alone by a socialite like Jessica Smith. Therefore, she believed Jessica Smith was likely just enjoying the novelty Ethan offered for now. Maybe over time, once the novelty wore off, Jessica Smith would suddenly realize Ethan wasn't that great, and then she'd break up with him. If Sarah Young gave up now, it might indeed be too soon. Really? You think so too? Hearing Olivia Young's words, Sarah Young's eyes instantly lit up as if she'd seen a glimmer of hope. In that moment, her resolve to win Ethan Thompson back hardened. Yes, Sarah, since you don't want to give up, go try and win Ethan Thompson back. After all, he loved you for 7 years. How could he just stop loving you like that? Olivia, hearing you say that makes me feel much better. Sarah Young nodded firmly, a faint smile finally gracing her lips. Then she said, Okay, Olivia, will you come with me to find Ethan Thompson? He's blocked me now. I can't reach his phone. Olivia Young felt deeply exasperated, but nodded anyway. All right then, let's go. With that, the two sisters got in their car and left the hospital, heading straight for the south suburbs of Green Valley. Before long, they arrived at the manor. Meanwhile, in the fitness center, Ethan Thompson was working out when suddenly, a security personnel in a suit walked in. This surprised him slightly, as the security staff usually never entered the fitness center while he was exercising. Sir, there are 2 women outside the manor asking for you. The security personnel reported respectfully, looking at Ethan Thompson as he stepped off the treadmill. 2 women. Ethan Thompson froze for a moment, Then a realization seemed to dawn on him, his expression instantly turning serious. The two women looking for him must be his ex-wife and her good friend, Olivia Young. After all, during his 3 years of marriage to Sarah Young, she had always been extremely possessive. She didn't allow him many female friends. If he so much as chatted a bit too long with any woman, she'd fly into a jealous rage. As a result, during their 3 years of marriage, Ethan Thompson basically had no female friends. So, hearing that two women had come looking for him, his first thought was immediately of Sarah Young and Olivia Young. Besides these two, no other women would likely come looking for him. "All right, I'll go out now." Ethan Thompson nodded. "Sir, those two women look like trouble. Should I call a few of the boys to go out with you to ensure your safety?" "No need. You guys just stay inside the manor. I'll go out and send them away." Ethan Thompson waved dismissively. After all, this was between him and Sarah Young. He didn't want to make it common knowledge within the manor. "Very well, sir." Then, Ethan Thompson went out of the manor alone. Meanwhile, Jessica Smith hadn't joined him for his workout today because Ethan Thompson had worn her out this morning. She was catching up on sleep in her room instead. Soon, Ethan Thompson arrived alone at the manor gate. Seeing him come out, Sarah Young and Olivia Young hurried over to meet him. "What are you two doing here?" Ethan Thompson frowned. Looking at these two valley girls, he instantly grew annoyed. Sarah Young came forward, grabbed one of Ethan Thompson's hands, and said shamelessly, "Ethan Thompson, I know I was wrong. I won't act out anymore. Let's get back together for good, okay? Let's go back to our old socialite lifestyle, okay?" Sarah Young pleaded pitifully, adopting a very humble posture right from the start. She realized now that if she still acted willful and unreasonable like before, if she appeared before Ethan Thompson with that same Valley Girl attitude, he definitely wouldn't give her the time of day. So, she could only humble herself. Get back together for good? Ethan Thompson was exasperated. "Sarah Young, how many times do I have to tell you? It's impossible between us. I won't remarry you. Forget about getting back together for good." Ethan Thompson refused directly, without a shred of hesitation. "Ethan Thompson, I really know I was wrong. What will it take for you to forgive me? Just tell me, and I'll do it, as long as you'll remarry me." Sarah Young hadn't given up, stubbornly persisting in trying to win him back. She didn't even realize that her current groveling appearance, begging for reconciliation, was remarkably similar to how Ethan Thompson used to be in front of her. Only now, their roles were reversed. "Sarah Young, it's useless saying all this. It's already over between us. No matter what you do, it's pointless. We can go back to how things were. Don't come looking for me again." Ethan Thompson forcefully pulled his hand away, speaking with extreme impatience. Hearing Ethan Thompson's heartless words, Sarah Young's face paled, her expression turning wretched. She had genuinely come to win Ethan Thompson back, but his attitude showed absolutely no intention of getting back together for good. This made her feel an urge to cry. The old Ethan Thompson couldn't bear to see her upset. But now, no matter how much she humbled herself, Ethan Thompson remained unmoved. Olivia Young stepped forward and tried to persuade him. "Ethan Thompson, Sarah genuinely came to get back together for good with you. Stop being so stubborn. I know what you're thinking. Now that you're with Jessica Smith, you feel like Sarah, this shrew, isn't good enough for you anymore. So you don't want to come back, right? But have you considered that you and Sarah have a 7-year history? She was your first love. You chose Sarah so determinedly back then. Can you really bear to abandon her now? Are you really going to choose Jessica Smith for her money and abandon the wife you once loved so deeply?" Hearing Olivia's words, the distraught Sarah Young instantly felt a flicker of hope. They had a 7-year foundation together. She couldn't believe Ethan Thompson would really choose to abandon her for money. After all, she knew perfectly well how much the Ethan Thompson of the past had loved her. However, upon hearing their words, Ethan Thompson actually laughed. "Do you two think I'm with Jessica Smith for her money? Why else? You were with Sarah for 7 years, but you've only been with Jessica Smith for the 3rd trimester. If it wasn't for money, why would you possibly abandon Sarah? Besides, you don't even seem to care about your child support anymore," Olivia Young retorted, tilting her chin up confidently. Ethan Thompson looked at Olivia Young's absolutely certain expression, then at Sarah Young's current look of grievance. He couldn't help but chuckle. "Sarah Young, do you think I just suddenly stopped loving you? You're wrong. During these 3 years in the Thompson family, you never once considered my feelings. You never tried to understand my difficulties. In these 3 years in the Thompson family, did you ever cook a single meal for me? Did you ever remember my birthday? Did you ever give me a wedding gift? Did you ever ask if I was having a hard time? Even when I was sick, you never asked about me. You think I just suddenly changed my mind, suddenly stopped loving you? Haven't you ever thought that disappointment builds up bit by bit? It's never the last straw that breaks the camel's back, but all the countless heartbreaks that came before. Ethan Thompson recalled his life over the past 3 years in the Thompson family, seeing only himself, utterly disillusioned with their messy marriage. Hearing Ethan Thompson's questions, each one felt like a knife twisting in her heart, causing Sarah Young's face to turn deathly pale. Only now did she understand how willful she had been, and just how deeply that willfulness had wounded the Ethan Thompson who had loved her most. Ethan Thompson, I know I was wrong now. Let's just get back together for good. I won't be willful anymore. Okay. Sarah Young reached out, trying to grab Ethan Thompson's hand again in an attempt to win him back. This time, however, Ethan Thompson took a step back. No, you were wrong. Let me tell you, Sarah Young, it's too late. There's absolutely no possibility between us anymore. Ethan Thompson looked at the woman before him whom he had once loved dearly, saw her pleading expression, but felt not a shred of softness in his heart anymore, only boundless indifference. Seeing Ethan Thompson step back, seeing his utterly heartless expression, Sarah Young felt as if something vital inside her had been instantly lost, leaving an empty space. She couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears. Ethan Thompson sobbed, I was really wrong. I won't be willful anymore. Ethan, boo-hoo, I was really wrong. I'll never be so willful again. Sarah burst into tears, looking utterly regretful and heartbroken. However, Ethan remained completely unmoved, still staring coldly at Sarah, showing no sign of softening. Olivia sighed helplessly but still stepped forward, continuing to reason with him. Ethan, Sarah knows she was wrong, and she'll change. You two have 7 years of history, after all. Please forgive her, get back together with her. Ethan shot her a cold glance, his voice tinged with impatience. Olivia, I'm with Jessica now. Can't you understand plain English? I already told you. There's no way I'm remarrying her. Ethan pointed at Sarah, his eyes filled with utter heartlessness. Seeing this, Sarah cried even harder. Olivia frowned slightly, clearly annoyed, and couldn't resist reminding him. Ethan, I know you're with Jessica now, so you look down on Sarah? But have you thought about yourself? Do you really think you're worthy of Jessica? Jessica has money, looks, and a figure. A socialite like her. Do you really think you can keep her interested in you forever? Wake up. Jessica is only with you now out of novelty. Once that wears off, and she realizes you're not good enough for her, she'll dump you without a second thought. You should just get back together with Sarah now. You have 7 years of history with her, and you have a child. If you reconcile, you can still have a happy family. If you keep being this stubborn, once Jessica dumps you, you'll truly have nothing left. It'll be too late for regrets then. Olivia pleaded earnestly. In her eyes, a man like Ethan was simply unworthy of Jessica, and a socialite like Jessica wouldn't stay with him forever. Ethan needed to face reality sooner rather than later. Getting back with Sarah was the right choice. Sarah also stopped crying, lifting her watery, tear-filled eyes to the indifferent Ethan, a glimmer of hope rising within them. Ethan, Olivia's right. The only reason you don't want to remarry me now is because you think you've snagged Jessica, isn't it? Wake up. You can't handle a woman like Jessica. We have 7 years of history, and we have a child now. You should get back together with me soon. Ethan looked at the two Valley girls and couldn't help but chuckle, amused. So, you think Jessica is with me because of novelty? Olivia lifted her chin confidently. What else? Ethan, you don't really believe Jessica is truly in love with you, do you? Wake up. You've only been with Jessica for a little over a month. Do you think that's true love? Do you even believe that yourself? Olivia pursed her lips, looking exasperated. Sarah nodded in agreement. Exactly, Ethan. Only you and I have true love. You should get back with me now. Otherwise, once Jessica gets tired of playing around, she'll dump you sooner or later. You'll regret it deeply then. Sarah argued earnestly, trying to make Ethan see reality and change his mind. However, Ethan just shook his head and chuckled again, looking at these two Valley girls as if they were clowns. But before he could say anything, he heard footsteps approaching from behind. Then, a clear, sweet female voice suddenly rang out. Who says Ethan and I will break up? Ethan turned to see Jessica, dressed in a long, red, waist-cinching dress, walking gracefully towards them. Her tall figure carried the distinct, noble air of a socialite, looking elegant and coolly beautiful. Under the bright sunlight, Jessica's exquisitely beautiful face was stunningly, unreasonably gorgeous. Just one glance was breathtaking. Jessica walked straight to Ethan's side, immediately took his arm, and looked at Sarah and Olivia with a wary expression. She knew these two women were here to steal her husband. She had just taken a nap upstairs. When she woke up and came downstairs, a security personnel reported that two women had come to the manor looking for Sir. She guessed immediately it must be Sarah and Olivia. So she rushed over at once, and sure enough, it really was these two women, here again to steal her husband. They just wouldn't leave them alone. Sarah, Olivia, why are you looking for my husband again? And who told you Ethan and I would break up? Jessica hugged Ethan's arm tightly, pouting as she questioned the two Valley girls with obvious displeasure. Seeing Jessica acting so intimate with Ethan right in front of her, so brazenly, Sarah was instantly furious. Jessica, Ethan's my husband. Give it back to me right now. Olivia also jumped in like a buffoon, united with Sarah against their common enemy. That's right, Jessica. You're only with Ethan now because it's a novel. Hurry up and return Sarah's husband to her. They're the true love. They were together for 7 years. You've only been with Ethan for a little over a month. You don't love Ethan at all. Wake up. Hearing their words, Jessica couldn't help but chuckle slightly. So, in your eyes, I'm only with Ethan because of novelty? What else? Olivia puffed out her chest, retorting with complete confidence. How long have you even been with Ethan? Just over a month. Do you really think you two are in true love? Sarah also spoke up, looking indignant and righteous. Exactly, Jessica. Ethan and I were together for 7 years. We were each other's first love. We are the true love. You've only been with him for a little over a month, and you dare talk about true love in front of me? Don't you think that's ridiculous? Novelty. Jessica slowly let the smile fade from her face, her expression becoming extremely serious. Sarah, Olivia, you think I'm with Ethan because of novelty, right? Well, let me tell you, I've actually loved Ethan for a long time. I've loved him for 17 years. Before you and Ethan even met, Sarah, I had already loved Ethan for many years. Let me tell you something, Sarah. Why do you think I became your BFF? If it weren't for Ethan, would I ever have become BFFs with you? Seeing the two Valley girls still stubbornly refusing to see the truth, Jessica held nothing back anymore, laying bare all her feelings for Ethan. She wanted to make these two Valley girls give up completely. Stop trying to steal her husband. What? Hearing Jessica's words, Olivia and Sarah both stared wide-eyed, looking utterly dumbstruck, expressions of disbelief plastered on their faces. Sarah, especially, was completely floored. She had never imagined that her former BFF had been secretly in love with her husband. And for 17 years, no less. Jessica even confessed that she'd only become BFFs with Sarah because of Ethan. Otherwise, she might never have crossed paths with a super socialite like Jessica in her life. In that instant, Sarah's mind went blank. She just stood there, frozen, seemingly unable to process this reality in such a short time. Olivia, too, took a long moment before snapping back to her senses. She pointed at Jessica, aghast. Jessica, you've been secretly in love with Ethan all this time? She still couldn't quite believe it. She'd always assumed a super socialite like Jessica couldn't possibly develop real feelings for Ethan. At most, it was the novelty, just playing around with him. After a while, she'd realize Ethan wasn't good enough for her and dump him. But she never, ever thought Jessica had secretly harbored feelings for Ethan. How could that be? A super socialite like her? How could she secretly love Ethan for so long? Did Ethan even deserve that? Olivia found the truth hard to swallow. Jessica lifted her chin, a hint of proud defiance in her expression, and readily confessed. That's right. I've been secretly in love with Ethan. I've liked him since I was 10. So, you two could just give up. I'm not with Ethan because of some novelty. We're true love. Ethan nodded, a faint smile gracing his lips. Exactly. Give it up. Jessica and I are together because we love each other, not because of novelty. Also, Sarah, Ethan looked at his ex-wife, who still seemed unable to believe it, her face deathly pale, looking utterly defeated, like a kicked dog. We are never, ever getting back together. Sarah ignored Ethan's heartless and cold expression, turning instead to Jessica. She bit her lip, her voice trembling slightly. So, when you became my BFF back then, it was really because of Ethan? In college, not long after she started dating Ethan, she met Jessica, and they quickly became BFFs. She used to feel so proud of having a super socialite as a best friend. But thinking back now, she realized it had all been part of Jessica's deliberate scheming. That's right. If it wasn't for Ethan, I never would have become your BFF. Jessica nodded seriously. Sarah, seemingly not ready to give up, gritted her teeth and pressed on. But you said you were commitment phobic. Jessica scoffed lightly, no longer bothering to hide anything. Let me tell you, Sarah, I was never commitment phobic. It was just that Ethan was with you then, and I couldn't be with him. That's why I told everyone I was commitment phobic. Jessica's words were like a sharp knife stabbing cruelly into Sarah's heart, making agony twist inside her. At the same time, a wave of regret washed over her. Only now did she realize how stupid she'd been. All this time, Jessica had kept her completely in the dark. She'd always believed her BFF was commitment phobic, never suspecting she'd been coveting her husband all along. Thinking back, she realized that by lending her husband to Jessica, she had actually played right into Jessica's hands. She thought it was all fake. The trial separation was fake. The marriage was fake. But in the end, she discovered that everyone except her had taken it seriously. Thinking about it now, she suddenly realized how unbelievably foolish she'd been. Idiotic beyond belief. Jessica, how would you do this to me? I kindly lent you my husband, and you were planning to steal him all along? How could you? Having pieced it all together, Sarah instantly started trembling with rage. Right now, she felt like a fool who'd been utterly played. Jessica met her gaze unflinchingly. Sarah, you were the one who didn't know how to cherish Ethan. Did you know I was actually prepared to grow old alone, to never marry? As long as Ethan was with you and happy, that would have been enough. But you didn't appreciate him. Do you know, during your 3 years of marriage, every time I saw Ethan acting at your beck and call, my heart ached for him. Since you didn't know how to cherish him, I'll cherish him for you. Sarah, I will love Ethan more than you ever did. In this entire world, no one loves Ethan more than I do. Jessica looked utterly serious and determined. Now that she was finally with Ethan, she would absolutely not allow anyone to snatch him away again. Seeing her defend him like this, a warmth spread through Ethan's heart, and a soft smile touched his lips. Watching the two of them brazenly display their deep affection right in front of her, Sarah became so furious she was grinding her teeth, her eyes practically shooting fire. Jessica, we had an agreement. I'll lend you my husband. Do you understand what lent means? Give him back to me right now. Sarah shrieked hysterically, looking frantic like a raving shrew. She regretted it now, truly regretted it. She had personally handed over the husband who loved her most to Jessica, who had been coveting him all along. In this moment, she felt she was reaping what she sowed. At the same time, she felt a burning anger at being manipulated. Yes, she felt Jessica had schemed against her. If it weren't for Jessica, why would she ever have lent her husband? If she had known Jessica harbored these designs on Ethan, how could she possibly have lent him? It was all Jessica. She was the one who had ruined everything. Olivia stepped forward too, defending her friend. Yeah, Jessica, you agreed with Sarah you were just borrowing her husband. Now she doesn't want to lend him anymore. So hurry up and return him. Who does that? Stealing someone's husband and refusing to give him back? Have you no shame? Olivia stood with her hands on her hips, radiating self-righteous indignation. Hearing the demand to return Ethan, Jessica immediately clutched him even tighter. Sarah, Ethan is mine now. We love each other. Just give up. Besides, you two already had a trial separation. Ethan and I now have a marriage certificate. Our marriage is protected by law. Make me leave Ethan? Don't even think about it.